Let's get the mic up and then. All right, we're live. How's it going, everybody? To the first episode of Esoterica Live. I'm joined here today by my buddy Mickey, or Mangalni, a man of many names, of a Renaissance man who is of all sorts of interesting stuff, and a very opinionated person. But today we're going to be talking about universal basic income. I decided this would be a timely topic, since we've been dealing with the effects of the global pandemic and how it has severely impacted people economically, and how there are now talks of a possible fourth stimulus payment to Americans to help offset these issues with economic hardship experienced by people who've lost jobs and who have been kind of like squeezed in a way that has really impacted them because of the global pandemic. Feel free to call in. Our call number 240-813-9851 if you have a particular opinion on this. We'd be happy to discuss with you. Universal basic income has been discussed a lot, especially this last presidential cycle, with candidates such as Andrew Yang saying that we should institute payments of $2,000 a month to Americans. And there have been many pilot programs in places like Finland. I believe that in Oakland, actually, in the United States, they're testing out universal basic income for low-income residents. I believe it's just like a very small test. They're giving people like $500 a month, and in the studies that have already been done, they've shown that people who do receive universal basic income tends to use the money specifically to help them pay their bills, to pay for childcare costs, and to cover the various expenses that all of us have to take care of in life. And a lot of the naysayers said, oh, if we give people universal basic income, they'll squander it, they'll spend it on cigarettes and alcohol, and that it's in many of the studies showing that that is not the case. It's really just sort of helping people make ends meet in a world where it seems to be increasingly difficult to do so. I know in Canada, for example, their response to the pandemic for providing relief to their citizens has been a form of universal basic income, amounting to around $500 a week, which from some of the people I know who live in Canada say has been very helpful. And the United States has been lagging behind the world in that regard. I think we've received at this point. $3,200 over a year. But yeah, I don't know. I know. You have, since you're a business owner, you have not really been eligible for the stimulus payments. But you were talking about how you've found that things like the PPP loan, or the PPE loans, have been very helpful. Let's
The as far as like the I don't know like what the general application or the long-term application, or like what the plans would be insofar as like a universal basic income model, right? I've never seen any type of universal basic income model myself. I could think of some on my own, but honestly, like, I think that if you give me any concept to work out on my own, I'll find a way to make it work. So, a universal basic income would, like, my opinion on it would be based on the actual proposed application of it. You get me?
yeah.
Like, what are you
Well,
actually
so
intending to?
I mean, so there's been a couple even in like the world of like libertarian thought, there's been support for it. There's people like Charles Murray who have proposed, instead of having programs like Social Security or food stamps, or Medicare, he suggested that instead we just give everybody a flat amount of $2,000 a month, and like make it, so you have to like spend at least like a portion of that on like healthcare costs. But as a way to like kind of be able to have these government programs, but in a way that like people can decide where they want to prioritize these dollars being spent. Like I said, you got Andrew Yang, who has suggested that like we keep things like Medicare and SNAP and various programs like that, but also still do the $2,000 a month payments. And there's Milton Friedman, who has suggested that they would do it in a negative income tax way. So like if you like earn below a certain amount of money, instead of having to pay income tax, you would like receive money as a part of negative income tax to
Right.
offset that. So those are some of the various models that have been proposed. But that is that is kind of the topic. I was thinking about tonight, the first episode, doing the topic to be on uh, what Tucker Carlson said about masks last night on Fox News, saying that making children wear masks is tantamount to child abuse. But I was too worried that if I did something about masks or the vaccine, that I would immediately get zucked because they don't really play when it comes to like talk about it, and I feel like they right now
Accuracy
are,
and whatnot.
yeah, they're only really letting like approved media outlets talk about that without zucking people, because there has been like so much misinformation and crazy stuff that that has been going around in concerns to that. So I figured like we do something like universal basic income, and economic policy be safer. Probably not like going to jazz people up as much. Although who knows, there might be like some person out there that's like very jazzed about like economic policy, and especially like building a more equitable economic system in the United States post COVID. But I
I
don't know.
mean,
It's
you gotta keep in mind, like I'm in the process of like moving my business and myself to Africa, and like my mentality at least at the moment is not in terms of long-term American economic success. So, I'm not I would need to know like like there's so many things going on in America that it's like it's not about solutions, it's about politics. And then when you start dealing with Africa, and then everything is about solutions, and then the political parties like no, like everything is like neutral, like you don't fall into that, like, oh, this guy is not gonna agree to this because this, it's like then you go back to that mentality of contemplating, taxes and universal health programs and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, anything can work. There's
yeah,
no bad ideas, there's bad applications, so and then bad applications happen because somebody thought it was a bad idea, it was implemented, and then now they want it to fail. So, so the question is not about whether not, like in my head, is not about whether or not it can work. Like we can sit here and talk about whether or not it can work, but if I'm not hearing like different perspectives on it, I don't think there's nothing empirical about socioeconomics, you know.
true, true. I mean, a lot of people have tried to quantify these things in terms of like statistics, numbers, and all that stuff, but I feel like it definitely still.
It's never been done.
I mean, people have attempted it, but I would say they always leave out unknown variables. In terms of Africa, there has been a study that's ongoing by researchers and a nonprofit called Give Directly in Kenya, where they are
Hmm.
right now providing universal basic income. like long term. So 44 villages. So like basically it'll amount to like everyone's going to be receiving like $1.50, $2 a day there, but like the average cost to live in these villages is like less than $1. There's they're actually doing like a whole like bunch of studies about this like in like as a part of this. There's a short term UBI program where like uh, adults will receive this amount of money, like the $2 a day for 2 years. Like the long term ones for 12 years, and they're doing a lump sum experiment where they're seeing how people will react if they receive a one-time payment equivalent to the short-term UBI transfers of about like $600. So just like giving them the whole whack in one go. The study has only just started in 2018. So I guess they're kind of getting to the end of like the short term experiment, but I guess for them to be able to really come up with some fully realized results, they're going to have to evaluate once the 12-year period of the long term UBI experiment is over. Uh, so it's definitely it's a new concept um, that it's being like tested right now. It's being experimented with because there's a lot of concern about how automation is going to affect the workforce and the job market of the future. Because more and more like jobs that have been providing people like livelihoods are going to be going away. It's like we don't have anybody like really working in factories in America anymore, and that used to be like the mainstay of the American middle class. uh, and the same with a lot of other professions in this country and across the world. But I suppose that there is a lot of interesting stuff being discussed in terms of like what's happening with universal basic income. But I guess more study needs to be done. I personally don't think could be a bad thing. I think that we probably piss away like the amount of money we would need to spend on universal basic income on things like you know war and corporate subsidies every year. And it's not like that has honestly made the average American's life much better. So
Yeah, I
at
mean,
this point,
if we discuss, redistribution of corporate subsidies and stuff like that, of course I can expound on it. But as far as a universal basic income, as a like a specific detail without, on an entourage of legislation that will give it a structure to function by, it's just a concept that doesn't like how's it gonna work? How is it gonna change anything? What's the point of it? What's the difference between universal basic income and, you know, charging me or giving me 2,000 more on my what's the word? My basic deductions on my income tax. What's the difference?
well, I mean, I suppose that would probably be more valuable to a person who earns enough that they're going like get more back from their income tax. But it would be more like what has been proposed would probably be more along the lines of giving like every American, between like $12,000 and $15,000 a year in monthly payments. And I think that a lot of the ideas it's like to offset like high housing costs. It's very difficult for people who are making federal minimum wage or a little bit more to be able to afford housing these days. Uh, I mean, I just think when I
Can
was in
can can you imagine? Can you imagine if my carotid was bleeding out though, and then somebody came and said put a band-aid on each one of his veins,
us,
including his carotid?
I suppose so. You sort of maybe feel more that it's like overkill. Like not everyone would need these
No,
payments.
anytime you say universal, and you simplify it to just that, like a universal basic income. Okay, but you're not giving me like a bunch of policies to look at. You're not giving me regulations. You're not giving me applications. You're not telling me how the states are going to deal with it. You're not telling me how you're going to deal with changes in costs. You know, the value of the dollar, like what's going to happen with that. You know, okay, so like now we're discussing raising the minimum wage to $15, and because we've waited so long, $15 is unreasonable. You
I
get
mean,
me? So
I
what are
feel
we
like,
gonna do with it?
I mean,
You
that's a
start at
matter
two
of
thousand
opinion.
dollars now.
Uh,
Right. I'm saying the whole thing is, whether or not it's a matter of opinion, that's what I'm saying from the beginning. Socioeconomics is non-empirical. And at the end of the day, any ridiculous idea in socioeconomics works with the proper application. So again, like I'm just saying, like if we're gonna address a specific application of universal basic income, that's a conversation to be had. But if we're just talking about universal basic income and I'm not proposing it, you're not proposing it, you know what I mean? Then what kind of opinions are we really gonna have on it if we're not, you know, for
well,
or against a
I would
specific
say, I mean,
position?
I would say that I personally am for it. I believe that it could definitely help a lot of people in this country that are struggling financially. Kind of give people a cushion to be able to, work on skills to make themselves more valuable in the workplace. To provide them like a little bit of relief on the high cost of living in a lot of places in America. Because a big issue I would say right now is like, yeah, you can. There's the jobs are out there. You can work like three minimum wage jobs to pay your rent and to like make sure you have food on the table. But like if you're working three minimum wage jobs, like when will you ever have the time to really get out of that cycle? And that's why I definitely would say I agree with raising the minimum wage, just because it has been an incredibly long time to try to like people. A lot of people who like aren't in favor of raising the minimum wage say that like, oh well, the minimum wage jobs aren't supposed to be there for like people in their prime like career years. It's like for like kids and stuff like that, people just getting their feet into the job market. While we know that's not true. You go like McDonald's or something like that, where someone's only making like $8 or $9 an hour, and you'll see someone who's in their mid 40s, who's like in their prime career years, um, and for whatever reason, there's a million reasons why it could be that they're there. Um, it's still like a huge burden upon them, and some would say even very exploitative from the people that run the corporations and set these rates of pay. So I'm kind of like sort of looking at it as a way to offset some of the issues that have come up with, I guess, just like the rising cost of living in the United States with like a very flat, rate in terms of like the average person's pay. Like I mean, your CEOs and stuff these days, they're making like 1,000 times, 1,000% more than their lowest paid worker. Uh, when just back in like the '60s and stuff like that, it was a much lower disparity. So I guess it
Yeah.
all comes down to like the wealth gap that has developed in this country, and in terms of like
I think an idea like that would come from like billionaires, somebody like Andrew Yang and stuff like that who don't understand what people need. So you just throw money at it. People don't need you to throw money at them. That's patronizing. You know what I mean? We need better things. We need the government to do better. We need the people who make the decision to throw money at things to do better. A universal basic income, that's a lot of money to be thought of into much better solutions. Yeah, it might be a good idea. It might be a great fucking idea, but the money can be used for better ideas. It's not the best idea. It's a mediocre idea that is never going to happen. It's never going to happen. Not in the United States. So,
I mean, I suppose that could definitely be the case. Now, I would definitely say with the current makeup of our government, it's definitely not likely. I mean, heck, we've like had people who, now that the eviction moratorium is up, are probably getting thrown out in the streets in droves at the moment, and our government has really done nothing to help them. Beyond, I guess, putting that moratorium in place in the first place. Well, that was just a temporary fix. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I mean, you say that there are better things to spend this money on, better solutions. I mean, what would you say a good solution to the to wealth disparity and the income gap in this country would be?
Build a better school in every build a better school and a better hospital in every community.
True. I mean, when it comes to I mean, yeah, there's a lot of like differences of opinions of what a good school is and what a good medical system is, and I think that is at the heart of like some of the problems that we are facing in this country. A lot of people who are doing fine financially end up in like terrible places because they get sick or something bad happens to them, like again to an accident, and they may have insurance, but that insurance might not cover like everything they need, and they still find themselves, tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, uh,
Yeah.
and end up having to go into medical bankruptcy. I mean, would you say that? I mean, even if it's not universal basic income, I mean, would like government subsidization of the medical system be a solution that could help close this income gap?
Well, I guarantee you that the first, because I'm not gonna dive deep into what's going on in Africa, but because of the structure of the governments over there, you know, uh, 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 discussing education and healthcare in that regard, they you point at numbers and you tell them how you're gonna fix it, and they go, okay, yeah, that makes sense. There's no politics behind it. In the United States, the question of universal health care is political because people don't want to be reasonable. The concept of universal health care is just it's a healthcare concept. You
Mm-hmm.
get me? Like hospitals didn't come into existence for a capitalistic purpose. Hospitals have always existed for the purpose of public health. So the concept of universal healthcare, that is a capitalistic concept. Outside of capitalism, hospitals are hospitals. They exist to deliver and to deliver healthcare and to improve the public health, period. So that's like one of the most primitive concepts right there. Hospitals, how do we take care of this person who's injured or sick, right?
But unfortunately, that has not really been how or not how things have progressed in the United States. I mean, you worked in like the medical field for a long time, and so you've probably seen some of the worst excesses of how the corporatization and the sort of predatory business models of American medicine have been hurting regular people. Uh,
Yeah.
and I mean, I could definitely say that, I would take, like, if we couldn't get universal basic income, I certainly would take universal health care, in a heartbeat. Um,
I don't think they're
it's just,
mutually exclusive. I think the concept of universal basic income is a different system of taxation. When we're referring to healthcare, healthcare is going to exist regardless. If you take the most primitive society, in the world, in existence, in the history of humankind. They all had hospitals. They all had some type of healthcare system, and the healthcare system was actually like the heart of their society. When you look at the religion, uh, 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 philosophy, science, and healthcare all have the same root. It all came from the same place, which was, how do we fix this? How do you do this? What happens when you do this, etc. All those questions came from that search. So if we're talking about healthcare, we're not talking about taxation and income. Like that's completely separate. And I say that in a philosophical sense,
mhm.
right? And because in reality, it is paid for through a system of taxation. But that, and with regard to my views on universal healthcare, you could have a lot more impact in terms of getting people off of welfare and making the society itself more sufficient, more efficient, more self-sufficient, um, by making healthcare universal, first of all. And it's not because, oh, you're gonna, get, an injury is not about cost. A sickness is not about cost. It's not about, losing your money. It's not about that. It's about the injury. It's about the sickness, you know. So the income part, the when you're talking about the universal basic income, then there we're talking about, taxation, like the money that goes to welfare, the money that comes from like a flat tax and stuff like that, or corporate tax and all that. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about universal basic income. Yes, right now, healthcare is part of that system, but if we're talking about how to fix it, we get it out of that system. Let healthcare be healthcare, and we can talk about the structure of that if you want, or we can, get back to the universal basic income. If we're talking about universal basic income, now this also falls into education, because we're talking about, you know, uh, uh, you paying for your basic needs. That usually comes through a profession, through labor, right? You work for it, and how you work for something, where you work in, what your career is based on your education. So again, you got the universal healthcare. Now the universal education, put your money, all your money, in the healthcare and education.
It's true. Are you there?
The
Did we lose you?
pride,
Oh, oh, I see. I'm sorry. I thought you were getting a little bit of Oh, you came back. Okay, I'm sorry.
oh I
Just
don't I
lost
don't
you there
know,
for a
what was the
second.
last thing y'all heard.
Oh, you. I think you were talking about uh. I guess it sounded like you were talking about like personal pride coming from labor. Uh, I'm not
Oh yeah,
sure.
no, no,
Like,
no. I'm saying that communities that have like their own healthcare, that solid healthcare, solid education and whatnot, their pride goes up. And I mentioned pride because that has to do with crime. Especially within your own community, that has to do with a sense of pride. If you don't have a sense of pride and you don't have a sense of future, what am I gonna do with myself? My grandma got sick and didn't even make it to the hospital, so I live in a shit ass community. You know what I mean? Things like that are what lead to crime. If you know that when you grow up, you have to be a cop, a teacher, a doctor, or a criminal, and you don't see yourself making it in any of those others, you're going to choose crime. When you have the basic needs, when the basic needs of the community are met, then the excesses are redirected into things like art and creativity, and things that the youth does find interest in, other than the crime. You get me?
yeah. I mean, there's. I mean, I understand. Yeah, like providing like high quality basic services is good for the community, and helps lead people to leading more productive lives. But I think that one could say the same thing about universal basic income by it allowing people to have the opportunity to be able to pursue bettering themselves better. And I would also say, to go back to what we were talking about with healthcare, there's a lot to be said that universal basic income could be something of value for public health by, helping people be able to afford more nutritious foods, to, be able to help them afford the things that they can, they need to stay healthy. And I feel like there's a lot of people in this country who are living in poverty who are kind of like, led towards unhealthy lifestyle choices because of their, them dealing with being in poverty. I feel like probably you go back in history and it wasn't like it is now, where like the poorest people in our society are usually the people who are like the fattest, that are having more likely to like have like diseases like diabetes and gout and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I don't know. I think that would
I
probably go
mean,
to education as well.
it's different for Europeans than it is for everybody else. So when you look at everybody else outside of European societies, it's not like that. The poorest people have, if in terms of European wealth, the poorest people have always been the healthiest around the world.
Yeah, I mean, but not in the United States, that's for sure.
Yeah, because it's not it's the dietary structure and the wealth and everything like that. There's different systems in play there, and fixing them
Like
with that
it
same
is now.
mentality is not really gonna fix them. It's just gonna, put a band-aid on your arm while you're bleeding out through your carotid. You get me?
Yeah.
um, like if you have that basic education, right? So you're saying the problem with the concept of universal basic income is the same concept of the what's it called, the prodigal child. You get me? And like those types of parables in the Bible. Like the government isn't gonna be the happy father that welcomes you with open arms, or you wasted your money, come back to me, get more inheritance on the one hand, and then on the other hand, you have a neighbor who takes his universal basic income and invests the holy fuck out of it and becomes a millionaire and comes off of the universal basic income. You're going to create a class that perpetually lives on universal basic income, and a middle and an upper class that looks down on that lower class because they didn't do what it takes to get out of it, or they just weren't capable of doing the same things. A universal basic income, the more I think about it, is just another horrible idea from the same type of mentality that's been having, the systems that we've been in throughout history. It just
True.
doesn't sound helpful at all.
I mean, I don't know. I would say though, there's definitely some people's like, yeah. That I mean, I don't know. Like a lot of the proposals have been only like I said like between $12,000 and $15,000 a year, which is I guess enough for you to like live a pretty meager existence in like a very cheap area of the country, like maybe like Mississippi or something like that. And I mean, at the end of the day, like some people are going to be like that. Some people are just going to be lazy. Some people like might not have like the intellectual capability to have more. They might not have like I mean, yeah, everyone's different, and like, unfortunately, like I don't want to say that like some people are just burdens, but like some people just they I don't know,
That's
they
why I
have
said
some
it's
wrong.
more of the
Yeah.
same mentality
Yeah.
that's basically the mentality that there should be a subsidized lower class.
I mean,
There
true.
shouldn't be a subsidized lower class.
I mean, do you believe that like everyone has the ability to raise themselves up, like regard, like and there is
I mean,
always a path.
if somebody needs mental health therapy, then they need mental health therapy. If they need physical therapy, they need physical therapy. But just because if you say somebody doesn't want to work or doesn't want to get out of that, then you're just not addressing a mental condition. You're not, the concept comes from libertarians, because libertarians are prone towards, or they're pulled towards, individualism. The problem with individualism is that if you don't know that you're applying individualism, you're gonna fall into the traps of individualism that were pointed out by Ayn Rand, like the fault, the selfish altruism.
Yeah.
Saying, oh, because of this, oh, because of that, and then it's like, okay, you're coming up with this concept based on this income, and then you're coming up with all these, what's the word, false dichotomies
Mhm.
to justify it. And it's like, That's a whole lot of false dichotomies, dude. When it's like, look, instead of saying, oh, maybe they don't want to go to work, maybe this, maybe that, and everybody deserves a universal basic income. Well, yeah, you, you can take that risk. Again, it might be a good idea, it might be a great idea, but there's simply better ideas. It's just that simple. There's just no matter how you rationalize it, there is always a better idea. Where are you getting the money from? From from a treasury, from a bank account where you could be using that money to do something better.
Yeah, I mean, some people say that honestly, like since it'll always our units of currency are no longer based on real measurements of value. It's really more based on like emotion and belief in the country that issues the currency. That perhaps if like universal basic income is looked at as like reinvesting value into the citizenry, that like it wouldn't cause inflation. It
It's
wouldn't
not
cause.
though. It's not.
Well, you say like the
It's not
example.
fixing anything at all. You cannot fix anything by simply increasing somebody's income. That doesn't fix anything at all. That's like it's like going to buy a car and then saying, "I want to pay less than 200 a month," and they go, "Okay," and they raise your interest, and then
I
you
mean,
say, "I want to lower," and they say, you say, "I want to lower interest rate," and they ask you for a bigger down payment. You know what I mean? Like it's not taking care of anything.
yeah,
It's
I
it's
guess,
a
but
pretend issue. It's a
I would
pretend issue, dude.
I would still say though that like I mean a car dealership and like a central bank is definitely are two different sorts of organizations. I mean I don't know. I see where you're coming from there. I guess it's just a matter of like how would one be able to reinvest this money in a way that would be genuinely helpful. I feel like a big issue with like say increasing the amount of money spent on education is the very like large amount of like different ideas that or I had about what is quality education. I mean, I'm like a product of like people with very strong views of that. My parents thought the American public education system was a crock of shit and terrible, so they took me out of it.
Yeah, but I mean, but what I'm saying is
Uh,
mathematical. Mathematically, it makes no sense. It's a fake issue. That's what I'm saying. Mathematically, it just it's just political posturing. Is you didn't do anything. If you give everybody $2,000, you essentially gave nobody $2,000. You don't get that concept?
I mean, I don't believe like that's like sort of based on the idea that you can only ever be truly wealthy or have truly have something as long as there are people who don't have that.
In a
It's like
capitalist system, absolutely. That is the absolute fact of capitalism. You cannot have wealth without poverty. That is a fact of capitalism. That's taught in every economic school in the world.
I mean that may be true. There will be people who will have less than others, but do we have to have a system that's
No, no,
so
no, 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 no,
brutal?
no, no. And yeah, in a capitalist society, there will be wealth and there will be poverty, abject poverty. That's just a requirement of capitalism. It's numbers, it's mathematics.
I mean, I guess that probably like leads to the question: is capitalism really all that great of a system? Uh,
It's not.
if you know, if it's going to lead
It's
to
not.
a lot of people suffering.
It's
I
not.
mean,
We've always known it's not. As civilized human beings, we've always known capitalism is not good. We
uh,
just say it's not good when it's convenient to say it's not good, and we love it the rest of the time.
well, we love it when it's good to us. When it's good to the individual. I mean, I'd say I'm
I
not
mean,
like
for somebody like me, I have to embrace capitalism because I'm, I would otherwise be a victim of capitalism. You get me? So that's why
Yeah.
people embrace capitalism, because you have no choice but to participate in capitalism. If you don't participate in capitalism, or if you pull back from it, you will be that rural farmer trying to sell to his neighbors and not really making any money. You know what I mean? But just because capitalism is that way doesn't mean that capitalism cannot be compartmented by communism or by socialism. And that's the problem with isms and people with their minds and their paradigms and whatnot. They'll see, they think isms are absolutes. So because capitalism, has these goals and concepts,
Isms
then
are.
somehow you can't temper them with socialism. You absolutely can. They're symbiotic. The most beneficial organisms have a symbiosis of individual components that would otherwise be, you know, deadly to each other. You get me? But when they
Deadly
work
to
in
each other.
symbiosis and there's a balance, that's how, civilization has rationalized things going back thousands of years, homeostasis. There has to be a balance. If you want to get rid of a poverty class, then what you get rid of is the political class that tries to make everything political, because that is ultimately what leads to everything being a conspiracy, corruption. Oh, that's not a good idea. Oh, that's this. Oh, that's that. Like we can talk about any political issue in the United States, and you're going to have two groups of people where 99.9% of the people yelling on either side know absolutely nothing about the issue, you know? So that's really the problem with the economy. The problem with the economy isn't the economy. It's not these taxation and stuff like that. The problem with the economy is the American people. Y'all motherfuckers think you're the smartest motherfuckers in the world, so you can't even get along with each other. So,
Oh,
you
that's
know,
true. Yeah, I think that the last 4 years have really shown me how deep the Dunning Kruger effect runs, or I think it's the Dunning Kruger effect. Yeah, runs in this country, which is this the thing has been noticed, or I guess it's a theory that states that the less a person knows about a subject, the more confident they are that they know a lot about it. And, and the opposite end, the more someone knows about a subject, the less confident they are they know a lot about it. And
hmm
I feel like that has definitely been an issue with just political discourse in this country. Is a lot of people like strongly believe that they know everything about like these insanely complex issues. And like I
yeah,
say, I agree. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. They said
And it's
they
funny,
think they're
is
so
is
smart, but no, carry on.
yeah, and it's funny because they will believe that they agree, that they know, that they understand like the complexities of an issue, right? Like they ain't just going for the basics. They're asserting the complexities. And then when you start discussing the basics, just the basics, they start acting like, oh, you think you know everything, this, that, and the other. And it's like, yo, see, that's the problem right there. I'm not even talking like I'm an expert. I'm talking like I'm familiar, like I'm actually just familiar with the issue. And then, you're acting like, you get me? That's what I'm
No.
seeing a lot of, you know.
I mean, absolutely. I think that it's something I would say that has been very surprising for me. Like I grew up like always knowing the internet and like I've seen it since like the beginning. And I remember early on, I really did believe that it was going to be this thing that was going to bring everyone together and it was going to make people more intelligent because now suddenly we all had access to all of the world's knowledge We didn't have. I mean, I can't even like really remember a time where I would like turn to someone and be like, "Oh, I wonder." Like we would be discussing, "I wonder if this is a fact or if this is true." And like for most of the time, like people would just be like, "Well, I guess I just don't know. I won't know until I go to a library, or something like that." But now, I can just know. But despite that being true, people seem to gravitate towards the worst kind of information, the kind of information that has no citations, that like is not based in fact, and just going to the things that like validate their own ignorance or their own like suspicions or prejudices. Um, and I mean, I could see like there's a lot of talk right now of trying to like regulate and change fundamentally how the internet works, because people have been shown, because there are one bad actors who are willing to take advantage of this all day long for whatever reason, and there two there's like a large number of people that instead of like trying to like think critically about the information, they'll just go right to what like makes them feel good and what makes them feel like it validates their own opinions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. It's been pretty crazy. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm glad that you are of the persuasion that you'd rather sort of take the position that you might know some stuff, but like you're still trying to learn. I feel like it's always like you're very clearly a critical thinker, and they're becoming harder and harder to find. But for the people viewing, if you'd like to get in on our conversation about universal basic income, please hit up the call-in number. We are waiting for you to hear your opinions. I know it's probably a pretty dry subject to do the first episode of Esoterica Live, but I don't know. I'm trying to feel it out. I was not trying to get zucked right out the gate by going too controversial. Uh, but we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. I'm
So what's going
hoping.
on?
We got a couple of viewers. I should have done this on Reddit public access. Like that's a great way if like you don't have like a big like base built up to get your numbers up, build lists. I got like a whole bunch of calls actually when I did a test broadcast when I just got my new broadcasting stuff on there.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Have you ever spent much time on Reddit?
No, I don't
It's all
spend.
right. It's
I
all right.
don't.
I mean, I don't know. If you're looking for like a dumb thing to flip through on your phone, it's not the worst.
Yeah.
Uh, well, yeah, let's see. We've been going at it for about an hour. Yeah, I think it's been all right first episode. I don't know. What do you think the next topic we should cover in Esoterica Live?
I mean, that's up
Pretty
to you.
much.
I'm game to talk about pretty much anything. Um, I really don't care about anybody's sensibilities. I'll so I'm not, too concerned about that in that regard. I just I don't know.
Oh man, I got a like from Unita. Now there's a blast from the past.
Oh
Man,
yeah.
all those people, yeah.
There's like
Yeah.
one person watching. That's me.
See. It might have been
I think that's
Unita.
my account logged in
No.
again. Yeah, you
Man.
you you need to subscribe to mine. See, this is me right here. You see
Yeah.
the
You want
the
you
live
want
chat.
to you want to do
Oh, you already did that.
no. I don't know, perhaps
How are
let's
you
just
live streaming? You only have 4 subscribers.
4 subscribers. Oh, I mean, I don't
I
know.
thought you couldn't live stream
With Restream or I mean honestly,
on
yeah, with
YouTube.
yeah, on YouTube you can do that. I just started this thing. I'm probably gonna do more stuff on Reddit public access because that way, like, you get more people, so it's just kind of like exposes people to what you're doing. Or I need to like do some stuff that like really like pisses people off, so they share it a lot. Uh, I'm also yeah
I mean, shit.
I'm gonna be doing some live. I've got some musicians lined up. I'm gonna be live broadcasting musical performances, a bunch of other stuff. But I figured just for shits and gigs, I would also do the talk show thing. Uh,
Hmm.
it's a good way to build up content, everything. I'm really excited to be watching your YouTube channel from the stuff you shoot when you're in Africa. Like that sounds like it's gonna be so lit.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be wild. We're gonna be everywhere. We're gonna be first of all, obviously, I'm trying to, uh keep myself from traveling too much. When Americans think of Africa, we think of it like, oh, it's this small, easy to get around continent, you know what I mean? Because
No
it's
way.
compact. It's one thing. It's one Africa, right? So you think you're just gonna go, oh, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go there, this, that, and the other. And and I'm already like, oh, I gotta go to Ghana, I gotta go to Cote d'Ivoire, I gotta go to Senegal, I gotta go to Kenya, I gotta go to Nigeria. I got meetings set up and everything. And like even like the MD Expo and all that. So actually, all the places that I did just name, I will be going to. I don't know if by the end of the year, but hopefully, there's one in September. I think the one in September is in Kenya, and that's way on the other side. So if I'm gonna be going to Kenya
Well,
in September, I'm gonna be doing the local shit regularly. In terms of Ghana, I got the hemp thing going on,
mhm.
and I'm trying to get in with the Ministry of Health in Ghana as well, which also helps me with the hemp thing because it's a Ministry of Health and a Narcotics Control Board program in Ghana, and hopefully we can get in there through the help of the Burkina Faso government, of
Mhm.
course, and then we'll see. Like we're doing. I'll find out tomorrow. Because of the time difference, the name of the business is getting registered. At first, I tried West Africa Biomedical, but it was rejected by the Chamber of Commerce over there, which is like the State Department, for registering
Yeah.
businesses. So we're seeing if we can register One Africa Biomedical Services, and then in the future, depending on our contracts and whatnot, we're looking at like One Africa Manufacturing Group and stuff like that. So yeah, we're gonna be doing a lot. We're gonna be working with a lot of people. Hopefully, we're gonna be getting in with different African governments and whatnot. Y'all know how I am. Well, maybe not. I don't know about your audience. Your audience ain't my audience. They don't necessarily know who I am, but you know the everything Americans don't like about me is why is why they want me over there,
Well, exactly.
So
Yeah, it's a whole bunch of Westerners trying to get it done. When at the end of the day, it seems like you just need an Afro Caribbean to get in there.
yeah,
uh,
yeah, definitely.
yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I'm definitely like stoked for everything that seems to be going well with this. It seems like it's going to be a really exciting adventure, and it's going to be I don't know, just probably yeah, just a once in a lifetime or sort of a life changing experience, and like seems like a great direction to be taking your business. And just such a fresh market that is in such desperate need for the kind of services that you're providing. Um, Oh, it's. I remember my dad, like he worked for the South African government, has worked like in issues relating to Africa for so long, and for so long he was talking about like how like Africa is going to be like the next like China, the next Vietnam, like a lot of different African countries are going to like have that rapid industrialization and stuff. And I feel like what you're doing is kind of like a part of those steps to like how so much of the continent will become more developed and you know raise itself
Yeah,
up with.
the The concept I keep telling everybody is, brace yourself because the next 10 years is going to be like 50,
Yeah.
in Africa. The next 10 years is going to be like the past 50 in the United States. You get me? Or in, everywhere else because um, they're behind, but the fact that everybody else is not means they're missing really basic things, and then you see the Americans that are going over there and the foreign, and this happens with any developing nation around the world, not necessarily just Africa. When the outsiders come in to help, it's on some selfish altruism bullshit where they don't really understand the needs, right? And they come up with this system of, giving help that looks very optically helpful, but internally and in the long term is some bullshit. You're not really helping. If you're not trying to make Africa as a continent self-sustainable, then you're not helping any individual African country, no matter how much you say you are. You're just there to take advantage.
No, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's about time that the sort of the Westerner or the white man's burden kind of bullshit stopped. I feel like that kind of mentality is what's really put the West so behind in terms of like investment in Africa. I mean, I'm not. I'm going to say the Chinese are probably like just as selfish about their designs with their economic policy and trade policies towards Africa, but they've kind of like approached it in this less like judgmental, like or less like oh well we know better kind of way, which
Mm.
has helped them like have the success they have had. I mean at the end, even though at the end of the day I think that they're not really acting with Africa's best interests in mind. um,
Who?
the Chinese, who are like
Nobody is.
yeah. Well, but you see, but the
If you're
Chinese
from
don't.
if you're from outside if you're from outside the continent, there's no rational justification for you trying to do business with the continent. Not as long as it is disunified. As long as it's disunified, any business with Africa is stripping the country that you're doing business with. It's not helping Africa.
No, it's just a desire for rare earth metals and petroleum and other natural resources. It's very unfortunate. Uh,
Yeah, even if even if it, in their hearts it's not nefarious or whatever, even if everybody's just unaware of it or whatever, that's what it is. Everybody's just unaware of it. There's very few like African orders and like what's it called, like political advocates and whatnot out there speaking about this, right? But when you look at it, when you look at Africa in terms of like country size, population, and everything, Africa is the size of the rest of the world combined.
yeah,
When you look at Asia, if Asia cut off business with the rest of the world, Asia is self-sufficient. If Europe cut itself off from the rest of the world, Europe is self sufficient. Same thing with the Americas, whether it's North America from South America or both of them stay together, you can manufacture and sell anything. The same goes for the continent of Africa. The difference is we have no intellectual property in Africa, right? So nobody's invented anything that's owned on the continent. There's no monetary system that's exclusive to the
yeah,
continent. There's no central banks that are controlled by Africa or Africans. You know what I mean? So that is what will help the world in terms of poverty. You eliminate that colonialism. You don't need business with Africa. You know,
Yeah.
if it's something that Africa doesn't have, and like if you know if you come and you drop a bunch of rice, you know, and you're not looking for money or payment, then yeah, of course, you know, then but at the same time, you know, people like UNICEF, USA, when they come from the outside in, governments that are offering aid and whatnot, because they're not dealing with the whole of Africa. Again, all they're doing is putting band-aids on little cuts when my carotid is, you know, is bleeding out. It don't make no sense. And that right there is for optics. So I'm trying to go in there and work with Africa in a way, first of all, with West Africa in a way that, you know, we can try to make that region self-sustainable. And now we're talking about simple ass solutions. You know what I mean? And to implement simple ass solutions, you look at the easiest problems to deal with that other people are dealing with like idiots. You know, so for example, famine. You don't treat famine by throwing food at it. You know, oh, you bought them rice because they're hungry. Well, you buy them a couple of weeks worth of rice. Okay, so they're going to be good for a couple of weeks. That's not sustainable. So help and aid that's not sustainable, that's selfish altruism, man. If it's not sustainable, you're not doing it for them. You're doing it for yourself. And the interactions with Africa that I've seen, you know, coming from the outside, um, even if in their hearts they have good intent, you know, when you look at it that way, it's just not sustainable. So it's for them. It's not for Africa.
Yeah. I mean, I just sort of think about those people, those Christians that post their pictures for their African mission trips and stuff like that. I often wonder, like, how much is that really for you, or how much is that really for the people that you're supposedly helping, or how much is that for you, so you can have a bunch of stuff that you can post on your Facebook page about how much of a good Christian you are. Uh,
Exactly. Exactly.
you know,
Yeah. My bad. I'm plugging myself back in.
it's okay. It's quite all right.
Yeah, so people ain't really gonna like that, you know what I'm saying? Basically, you know, either commit to stay or get the hell out. Um Oh,
No, it's certainly
I thought
true.
you were smoking. I was like,
No, no, no. I don't know. My neighbor, his bedroom is the other side of the wall. I have a bunch of carbon scrubbers, like horticultural carbon scrubbers, in my apartment with
uh-huh.
exhaust fans, so I can smoke. But I don't know. I try to be a polite neighbor. I don't. You know, it's
uh,
hard for me to judge how much it smells
can I
because
smoke on
I'm
your
a
show?
smoker. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I
Because
don't
I'm in
care.
a legal state.
I know. Yeah, I
I'm in
suppose.
a I got a medical card, you know what I mean?
Um,
I'm self-employed, et cetera, et
now
cetera.
that could be a good topic for another show. I don't know. I On 420, I did something pretty interesting. I don't know if you saw the Joints for Jabs video I made for DCMJ.
I
Uh,
did not.
no, that was cool. You see,
Oh
like,
wait,
so
I did.
yeah, so like DCMJ, they were giving out or joints for everyone who's been vaccinated. Uh,
Oh yeah.
yeah, no, it was great. Although unfortunate things when I posted about it, I don't know. I have no idea how I ended up with so many like people that are like anti-vaxxers um, on my friends lists and all that stuff. So I got a lot of hate for supporting, encouraging people to get vaccinated. I mean, I don't really care, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, like
I mean,
it's unfortunate that they think that.
yeah. I mean, people think what they want at the end of the day, you know, it's like the people who want to get vaccinated are going to get vaccinated, and guess what? The people who never got vaccinated are never going to affect the people who got vaccinated.
True. It's true. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess I just worry about the people who couldn't get vaccinated for good reasons, like or for reasons that weren't in their power, like such as I'm assuming like compromised immune systems, all that kind of stuff. There's always going to be groups of people who it wouldn't necessarily be safe to vaccinate because of their own health issues,
Mm-hmm.
um, and those are the people I worry about. Uh,
Mm.
but I don't
Unless they're
know.
the anti-vaxxers, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know if they're the anti-vaxxers and they're taking their life in their own hands. Uh, my general view on all this kind of stuff is it's good to be concerned about public health, and it's not public health isn't about you. It's not about you as an individual. It's about like wanting to sort of maintain a general level of health amongst like the population, amongst your neighbors and friends. And at the end of the day,
Mm.
it'll circle around and benefit you. To
I mean, I know that like Americans have rationalized that, and especially like political liberals have rationalized public health like it's a political position for them to defend. But that's not what public health is. Everything you just said has nothing to do with public health. Public health, it really comes down to, listening to the experts when the experts give directives, and just doing the right thing. And people in the United States never do the right thing, whether they're on one extreme or the other. It's a generic argument, dude. It's a generic argument. You
I
know.
don't know. I mean, I would say that. I mean, like, I would love to be able to say that, like, we just all listen to the because I would say my position boils down to I'm going to listen to a person who spent their life like learning about a subject and being knowledgeable about it and understanding something over some like random person who's like got some wild like conspiracy theory. I mean, I feel like that's what's politicized it. It hasn't been like liberals necessarily that politicized it. It's been the other side that doesn't want to listen to experts.
I disagree. I
Well,
think both sides have been doing exactly the same thing. I think what made it difficult to identify the experts was the fact that progressives were loudly claiming to speak for the experts, and they were misconstruing everything. And then conservatives were loudly just dismissing the experts. Nobody was listening to the experts. If and not only that, but the experts themselves were contradicting themselves and then saying things that just made it difficult for anybody to be an expert or to make any sense out of anything. So right now, the concepts are nonsensical. The CDC just came out and said you don't have to wear a mask in public. Well, common sense tells us we should have never been wearing masks in public. Not if the definition of in public is outside, and then outside of a building. Wearing a mask outside is nonsensical.
I mean,
So
to be
why
totally
so why
fair, I said to be totally fair, like if I was outside and not like right up on someone, I wasn't wearing a mask. But
hmm?
oh, if I was like walking around outside, I wasn't putting on like, and if I wasn't like with a bunch of people I didn't know outside of like my group of people that were in my little bubble, I wasn't wearing a mask.
No,
I
no,
don't
no, no,
know.
no. What I'm saying though is that because the CDC just put out guidelines saying you don't have to wear a mask in public, that implies there was a time where you should have been wearing a mask in public. And
Yeah,
they've made comments to that end. Like, okay, but when in and then you look at again continents like Africa, they don't wear masks in public, not on a large scale. You know what I mean? And there's a lot less COVID going through Africa. And the reason is the majority of the life in Africa is outside. So if the majority of the life in Africa is outside, and you look at the simple models like the spread models and everything, we know exactly what happened. By knowing exactly what happened and where it spread, we know exactly how the virus spreads and why it's nonsensical to wear a mask in some situations and prudent to wear one in other situations, but nobody looks at it that way. They're like, oh, if you don't wear a mask, you don't care about your neighbors. And I'm like, fuck my neighbors. My neighbors don't care about me. I'll wear a fucking mask when I know it'll protect me and my family. And I'm not gonna fucking wear a mask when I know it ain't protecting a fucking person, just making it look good or giving me permission to walk into Walmart.
Yeah, I suppose that is true. Uh, I suppose that is true. I mean,
And
I
that's
don't know.
coming from the first person you ever saw wear an N95 mask during the pandemic. I guarantee you, I was the first one you saw
I mean,
in public with
I'll
an
be
N95 mask.
I'll be totally fair. I don't think I've ever had an N95 mask. I've just been wearing them cloth joints. Although I got
before there was a mask mandate, whenever I was going into buildings in the United States when there was not a mask mandate, I was wearing a mask indoors. I even went on video and I showed, like, hey, like, you see everybody in the store laughing at me because I'm wearing a mask? Wait about a month.
all
You
been
guys
wearing
don't
masks
remember
too.
that video? That shit's on my Facebook. That was a long fucking time ago.
Well, I guess it was about like a little less or a little over a year ago now. Uh, although I don't know, it's been wild.
It was like March 4th or such. I don't remember the date. But the point is that I'm the one saying wearing a mask outdoors was always stupid, you know? Like here they were like, don't go to the beach, don't do this, don't do that. And I was like, yo, Chicago had like one of the first cases and everybody was like defying the public, like the mask mandate in public, like the beaches were full and everything. And that shit wasn't spreading.
I mean, but what about you look at like in Brazil right now? They're having like an absolute like terrible time with COVID-19, having a ton of like having huge infection rates and stuff. They're all like hanging out on the beach
Okay.
together. I don't know. Would you say
Okay.
that? I mean, maybe
I mean, if I take a shit every time I take a pee, does it mean that my ass hurts when I get, you know, bladder stones?
well, all right. I suppose I could sort of see that. I mean,
Just
anyways,
because you go to the beach, just because everybody goes to the beach in Brazil, doesn't mean they didn't go out to the clubs at night.
no, that's true. I don't
It
know. It's
doesn't mean there
probably
weren't massive. It's what happened in Miami last year when everybody was like, see, 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 they opened up the beach and everybody started getting sick. And then you look at the Florida news and they're like, oh yeah, big outbreak was tracked down to this house party and yada yada yada. And it's like, you see, everybody listens and remembers when it's a scare. When
yeah.
there's not an explanation, but what happened is known, the idiotic jumps to conclusions are what everybody remembers as the explanation. When the actual explanation comes around, the news is already gone, so nobody's paying attention.
Yeah, that is true. I don't know. I've just been hoping that as long as I keep wearing masks and I got my vaccination, all this will go away eventually. Although I will say,
I mean,
I have been pretty lazy about masks in public, but I think it's stupid if I'm not close to someone outside. Like, why should I wear a mask? Uh, you know, doesn't make a lot of sense.
if you're close enough to me for me to inhale vapors from you, if I can inhale vapors, I'm beating your ass.
Yeah.
You're not giving me COVID-19 because you coughed on me. You're giving me COVID-19 because I beat the living fuck out of you for being close enough for me to inhale vapor from your fucking breath.
No,
Like you
exactly.
shouldn't be close enough to people to get it, you know?
I mean, I've been lucky enough to be able to work from home this whole time, where like
Mhm.
I haven't really had to go out and interact with people.
I've
Like,
traveled. the
Yeah.
country, worked in different hospitals and everything.
Well, I mean, yeah,
Never
I
done
guess.
it.
I mean, I'm assuming you like social distance. You wear a mask when you're inside the hospitals. Wash your hands a lot.
Hmm.
We'll wear gloves.
Yep. Just regular biomed hygiene. When you work on medical equipment,
You just have to do
come
that
on now.
anyway. Yeah.
You have a natural way of treating yourself and your body that you're not gonna catch shit like that. You know what I mean? So when shit like this happens, you just realize, what am I doing differently? The way I think because of my field, and it's based on in pathogens going from something I touched here to something I touched here, and then things like proximity to other people and shit like
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean? So people don't have that discipline in general. I told somebody today, you know, you get a pig, and you keep it by itself, and you have it in an exclusive environment, a clean environment. A pig
Having
will be the
traveled.
cleanest, the
Yeah.
country, the
Worked in
healthiest
different.
animal there is, in terms of the meat, right? You put the pig in a corral, that's the nastiest fucking animal in existence, you know? So it's the same thing with humans. You put humans in a fucking corral, we're worse than pigs. We're pigs. And that's, the problem with the lockdown is the lockdown just showed us our, what in Spanish you would say porqueria, our pigness, like our nastiness. On lockdown, our lockdown showed us our nastiness in a different way. Why were there certain outbreaks in certain states at certain times? When you go back and you look at how shit happened, we're just fucking nasty Americans that don't give a fuck. And then we try to pretend like we give a fuck. But this has been happening for a very long time, right? And then it like it's perpetuated because there's constant outbreaks. Like it grows. And then when you go back and you look at that little outbreak, it's just another cluster of Americans that just didn't give a fuck and did some pig in a pig style, me sniffing your asshole, you sniffing my asshole type shit. Whereas we should always, if you're a pig in a pig style, stand in a fucking corner and keep the mud off your fucking,
Yeah.
you
Avoid
ain't.
it.
And if you're gonna be in a pig style, you're gonna be vaccinated,
Yeah.
you know?
Which vaccine did you get?
I haven't been
You
vaccinated.
haven't vaccinated yet?
No, I'm probably not gonna get vaccinated.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's
Interesting.
because if I go to Africa, before I have time to get the 2 weeks, because I don't right now I don't have a real timeline. It could go from, a month and a half from now to I gotta get the fuck out of here next week. It's not
Okay.
based on the business. It's not based on Africa being ready for me.
But would
You
they
get me?
like not be able to? Would they like block your ability to travel?
What do you mean?
I mean, I thought that there was bans,
Tests? Nah,
tests.
there's
Oh, this there's doing
yeah,
tests. Now this is
yeah,
actually
you get.
so. This is something crazy I was reading about. So like in India, they're having this terrible, terrible like spike, and like they found like there's like this whole plane full of people that tested negative in New Delhi, but in when they landed in Dubai, like
I sniffed on
60, yeah,
purpose.
60 of the people that landed all tested positive because they tested them again when they landed. And apparently, people like they were giving people positive or clean COVID tests, like as they were boarding their planes, like literally giving it to them just so they could get on the plane in New Delhi.
Oh, well, you
And
can't get me that way.
no, I'm
You
not saying.
can't get me that way, so I'm not concerned about it. You can put me on a plane full of COVID, and I'm gonna get off that plane clean. Damn it!
Well, Well, but do you think you will get vaccinated when like the time when it's like convenient for you?
If I have time to, I will. Um, and I'll probably know that tomorrow because I'm gonna get the yellow fever vaccine.
Oh yeah, you probably have a bunch of
But
vaccines you have to get for going to Africa. Have you
just the yellow
been
fever.
vaccinated for like man what? I imagine there's a bunch of different ones you're gonna have to get. Do they or will they make you do a smallpox vaccine? The smallpox doesn't exist anymore. Never mind.
We've
Smallpox
been
doesn't exist.
vaccinated for that.
I mean, I don't know. I
Oh
guess
no, not smallpox, not smallpox. Our
I'm
parents
too.
got
Yeah,
vaccinated for that.
we're too young for that. But yeah, that shit doesn't
Yeah,
even exist anymore.
yeah. Mm-mm.
Thanks, vaccines.
Hey, you know what my favorite one is though? When people start talking all of that shit, I stay real quiet, right? When it's people my age, I stay real quiet and I let them talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. Hey, when was the last time you remember a kid getting the chicken pox?
Honestly, yeah,
And
I
they
got.
shut the fuck up. They shut the fuck up and go like, wait, motherfucker, look at your child's, you know, because me, I didn't get no chicken pox
Yeah,
vaccine. You know what I
yeah, I
mean?
had chicken pox. Yeah, I had it. I'm sure you had it too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I got it bad, bro.
yeah. No, it
Everybody I
was
know that
lame.
got it
Yeah,
got it
dude, chicken
bad.
pox is lame. Uh, we all had it. Yeah, but I didn't even think about that. I'm always using these like old timey justifications. I'm like, when was the last time you saw someone in an iron lung? When was the last time you even saw an iron lung? They don't exist anymore.
See, I got kids, you know what I'm saying? So I'm
Yeah,
sitting
so
here reading their immunization records and I'm like, varicella. What the fuck? Isn't varicella chickenpox in Spanish?
yeah, Spanish, Latin,
That's when I
all kinds of
realized
them.
I was like, wait the mo I was like, hold the fuck on. Like chickenpox wasn't bad enough to require a fucking vaccine, right? And the other day somebody goes, and I said exactly what I just told you. I say sometimes somebody goes, "Did you read? They want to prohibit kids from going back to school if they don't have the if they don't have the COVID vaccine."
I thought that
And
you
I'm
had
like,
to be vaccinated to go to schools anyway.
exactly, exactly. But rather than saying that, I was like, hold on, what do I say? And I go, remember the last time that kid got the chicken pox?
It has been a long time. Yeah, I never
everybody
thought
was
about that.
like, everybody was like, yeah, ain't no kids get the chicken pox because you gotta have the chicken pox vaccine if you want to send your kids to school. So the chick goes, I'm not gonna risk getting the vaccine, you know, because it's like implying that it's more dangerous than the virus, right? And I'm like, but you realize you're not at like danger of death over chickenpox,
No.
but we already accept that we got to take that vaccine. And then motherfuckers want to talk about the complexity of the vaccine itself, the time it took to develop. And I'm like, hold up, let's have a conversation. Let me hear your thoughts, your input, your experience, your background. What does it take to develop a vaccine? Motherfucker, what was what does it take to develop a vaccine? Let me know. What are the steps? It takes a long time because of studies. Okay, so what if the studies exist? You don't. How could the fucking studies possibly exist? Maybe if you studied it, you would know that.
I mean, yeah, that's
How
why.
about that?
There was a lot of money and effort that went into making sure that like they could get like the numbers they needed to do like the studies they needed to do. I mean, even now they're being so ridiculously cautious. Like I remember, like I got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, Steven, you're gonna get blood clot and fucking die." And I'm like, "Nah, I probably have a higher likelihood of getting struck by lightning and being killed by that than getting a blood clot from like the Johnson & Johnson vaccine." We're talking like, one out of every like
It wasn't that
1.2 million
simple.
people. Yeah, I think it was like hormonal birth control that caused the blood clots.
Yes,
Yeah,
the women it was like, I forget what the number was, but the women who reported the blood clots were also taking birth control.
yeah.
I remember one of the first comments I heard about it was, well, if I was taking birth control, which has a side effect, possible side effects of blood clots, I think I might want to disclose that to the person giving me a vaccine that has a possible side effects of blood clots.
Well, I mean, but yeah, hormonal birth control, like I think the rate is like it can give one in every 10,000 women blood clots. I mean, like hormonal birth control is a lot more dangerous than the Johnson & Johnson COVID vaccine. Uh,
Right, but see, the point is there, like when you just say things like that, like everybody simplifies it, like they understand what's going on right there. But let's be very fucking real, all right? The the problem with the blood clots, the side effects, is not related to bad engineering of the vaccine. It's related to the woman's reaction, this
yeah,
individual body's reaction to it. You get me?
yeah,
And the reaction to the pills, the birth control pills, is the same. It's an immune reaction. You get me? So if it's an immune reaction, that means there's something that probably should be looked at in that woman's immune system health,
no,
right?
100%. Yeah. Well, it's. I mean, I'm surprised that they like were so freaked out by like such a small number of like these reactions that they would like
Mm-mm.
suspend use of.
No, no, no. The freak out is this. Okay, if the government doesn't give oversight, people complain, right?
Yeah.
As a result of the people complaining, if there's no oversight, the government sets up agencies to give that oversight. So when 6 women out of millions and millions of people that took this vaccine have this reaction, it doesn't matter that it was only 6 out of millions. The legal duty of the company is to report that it happened. The fact that it happened is in a public database called FAERS, the Federal Adverse Events Adverse something Reaction Database or whatever. There's a medical, there's a MAUDE, and then there's a FAERS, right? So, or FAER. These two different databases, they report um, manufacturing engineering defects, drug adverse reaction, medical device adverse reactions, anything that happens in a hospital that adversely affects the patient that was not related to the condition of the patient and could be related to the equipment associated with the injury or death. And injury or death includes like cross contamination and infection. The mechanisms in place are you're supposed to report it to the FDA. You're supposed to report the devices that were there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And all that is supposed to be public knowledge. So that is the good thing about our government, right? And the good thing about our government is that every time we have a good thing, Americans are dumb. And rather than choosing to, because, and then the reason I say Americans are dumb is because of the level of access we have to information. Everything I'm talking about things that you can Google along as I'm speaking and see that everything I'm saying is absolutely fucking true. It's all on the internet. It's all public. It's all available to every single fucking person who shows any wee bit of interest. FDA database. Google it, you're going to find it. Whatever kind of database it is, you're going to find it. Now, I know that I have a background and I know specifically about these databases. But the point is that you also have reporters and sensationalist reporters and a whole media system that, on the one hand, they make money off of sensationalism. And on the one hand, everybody gets all riled up. And then on the other hand, everybody pretends like they're not reporting the information. So yeah, they got you riled up and everything, but they're just letting you know that this public system that's in place worked. What happened to you is the dummy who was relaying that factual information to you, and I'm talking to you, the general
No.
public, injected his emotions and his ignorance. And then instead of you saying, wow, he's presenting these facts and he sounds dumb, let me go look up these facts for myself, you go, wow, he's giving me these facts. This guy is smart, because you're dumb as fuck. You get me?
Yeah.
And then and just a piece of advice to people in general, to America in general. This is how you know you're dumb. You hear somebody speak. You hear somebody like me speak, and you don't think it. You don't think, wow, let me be specific. I know that when I speak, you might say, wow, he explained that in such a way, right? That's a valid criticism. You say, wow, what he said, I really didn't like, because that's a valid criticism. When you say, you're really smart, especially when you say it to me, my reaction is, you think you're smarter than me, you dumbass. You get me? Because I never sit there and think, wow, that person's smart. Because smart is a word, it's a measurement of intelligence, right? So if I'm measuring your intelligence, that means I was measuring your intelligence. So if your response to me saying some facts is your observation of my intelligence as a measurement, you're smart, then I'm like, you're a fucking idiot. Immediately. That's what you just told me. Like, you didn't do the math, did you? If we're, so I mean, my bad. I've been ranting. It
It's
said,
all
"Why?"
right.
I just saw the headline on. I just saw the headline. That shit threw me off, dude.
Sorry. I just figured I had to add
Oh
that in there.
shit!
I mean, it's something I've been feeling for a while because I'm like, I've never heard someone who's got like a medical degree say they're like against vaccinations. Uh, so like, that kind of like leads me to believe that people who are against vaccinations are. I mean, this is something like there's people I'm very close to that I really like who like. I mean, they are sharing the most ridiculous bullshit. Like there's this one girl who like I'm good friends with. She says she won't get it because she believes the COVID vaccines will make her infertile. And like, but then like I go on there, I find like multiple different academic institutions, like higher education institutions, like medical schools that have published studies saying no, the COVID-19 vaccination will not like have any effect on fertility. And I'm
I
wondering
mean,
where.
even if I read those articles, I would want to deep dive and want to know why. Like, fertility is not a magical mystery to humans. You get me? We're adult
No,
humans We're adult Americans. We all went to second grade. We all went to seventh grade. We all had reproductive classes where we should have a basic knowledge of the hormones involved with reproduction, and we have a basis to start by, where we can say, okay, these are the reproductive organs, these are the reproductive hormones, these are the receptors involved, these are the the biological systems involved, this is what works, etc., etc. If you want to deep dive and be honest with yourself and comment on that as either a supporter or an anti-vaxxer, right? You want to look all that shit up and
Are
find out,
absolutes.
for example, where in the body does the virus duplicate? There's three specific areas that we know about where the virus duplicates. So if we know this, there's things about the virus that we can predict based on where the receptors are usually found, right? And where they're expressed in a healthy human body, right? And I say healthy human body because again, there's conditions in the body where the receptors might be in other places where the virus is going to do things associated with that condition. But these are things that a person like me, I'm not an expert on that. I can tell you and I can explain to you how they work because the information is available. But if the information is available and I took the time to learn it and I took the time to understand it, and in doing so, I learned that the experts themselves don't get into these different areas, then I can also predict that while I can make some predictions, the experts aren't going to be able to make some predictions. However, they're going to eventually find this out, for example. Like, for example, when they found the fucking virus in semen, I was like, why the fuck did they conduct that test? And they were like, to see if it can be sexually transmitted. And I'm like, okay, but it would be trace amounts. And they're like, well, why would you even act like you know that? And I go, because the receptor where the virus duplicates is found in the lungs
Yeah, that,
and in the kidneys. And if it's found in the kidneys, that means the virus would be present in your urine, or you can presume that it would be present in your urine. And if you can presume that it would be present in the urinary tract, then you can presume that it would be present in trace amounts in semen. And that's exactly what the test showed. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't you just think that? Like, let's predict these basic things and move on to testing the more complex things that we can't just predict. You get me?
yeah.
So, I think all these different things have caused huge problems in terms, like the marketing, not the marketing, but like the convincing of the efficacy of the vaccine, for example. The question of why this vaccine got through so fast shouldn't have been overlooked. That should have been the marketing angle of the government.
I mean, but I have.
Take
See,
that.
oh, I'm sorry. So I read about this because this is something I was asked about. I was like, and I read like how like the studies that went into all these vaccines, they had like sample groups. They had people willing to be involved in the testing of these vaccines at much higher levels than your
Dude,
average
let
vaccine.
me tell you, but let me tell you something. Let me tell you something, bro. Because even you, in acknowledging that, you're still ignoring a key fact about this vaccine. The the coronavirus vaccine is based on RNA, right? So the RNA, is a structure of the cell within the virus, or the cell of the virus that makes up a portion of the information. It's not DNA, it's RNA, right? It makes up a different, body of information, but it's enough of the structure of the cell. It's enough information to be common at a higher degree than the DNA itself between coronavirus types. Do you see where I'm going with
Yeah.
this?
No, I see where you're going with this.
So
So,
coronaviruses have been known to
yeah.
man forever.
Yeah.
In terms of epidemiology and in terms of RNA structures, we have examples of coronaviruses,
Yeah.
throughout the history of medicine. We have those. What we also have is SARS-CoV-1, which was an epidemic in what, 2009, something like that, 2006. I don't remember the exact year, but it did not become a pandemic, so it was not lucrative to continue the path to a vaccine. So a couple of these companies were already on the path to this vaccine using the information for SARS-CoV-1. And that might sound like, oh, he's smart. Somebody who's dumb is gonna hear everything I just said and go, oh, he's smart. And it's like, no, I'm not smart. I'm not smart at all. Mm-mm.
It's more
That
logical.
information is available. That information is available. In fact, when the vaccine was first spoken about, when it was coming, do you think I deep dove for this information? No, I just remember
Yeah.
shit. If it flashes in front of me, I remember it. You get me? If I'm like, oh
Yeah.
shit,
Well, I
oh
remember,
shit,
like,
you know.
some of the first widely publicized people to get, like, to be test subjects for the vaccine was, like, I don't know, in late April, May of last year. I mean, it's not
I
like
think
it.
that was a later stage of the vaccine. Because remember,
No,
vaccines, the, the components of a vaccine, like what's in it that you got to test.
I mean, I guess just like the efficacy. We see
But
there's
what's
no
in the
action.
vaccine that you got to test?
Well, I mean, I don't know, I suppose in this case it would be. I mean, honestly, don't know. Like, I understand that we don't. There's no active like coronavirus in the vaccine. It's just the RNA, which like informs your immune system that it doesn't want like the COVID like 19 virus in it. I mean, I'm not going to
Right.
like
So
sit
the
here
the
and
RNA itself, the
no.
RNA itself, right? The RNA portion, anti-vaxxers do not argue harm from that portion. The arguments from anti-vaxxers tend to be related to the
Oh, we lost you there for a
do
second. All right, I got you back.
you get me?
I got you. You said the arguments like anti-vaxxers use, and then you just paused out there.
Yeah, that they're like when they get technical, they're based on what the vaccine or the inactive RNA structure that is like the virus or it carries the virus information. That's not what they claim harms you. What they claim harms you is constant throughout vaccines, the substance that is being floated in, the
Interesting.
delivery method.
Yeah.
That's what they're
Oh yeah.
saying causes harm. So while people want to argue like, oh, how did this one get through? You know what I mean? Vaccines don't take long to get approved. Why would a vaccine take long to get approved if most vaccines have just a weakened cell of a virus that is known to cause the fucking malady? What is going to be the reported harm from a vaccine that the FDA is going to say no?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I would imagine. I guess I can understand. Yeah, if there's something wrong with the delivery method, but I would figure that the delivery method for the vaccine would be some like probably the most well developed portion of any vaccine because I can't imagine it's that difference like than say like what goes into the um like the main vaccine that we all get when we're like babies and stuff.
I mean, we could look it up actually because it has to be different, right? And the
No,
reason I say it has to be different is because the way it's stored. So what are like let's I like to actually know this shit. So let's
we
look up
can.
what
Yeah,
are the components of the Moderna vaccine.
I remember
You
the
know,
thing that when I was first hearing about the Moderna one, they were all like talking like the issue with it was that it required to be stored in like special like below zero
right,
like freezers and stuff. And there were some vaccines that
right,
didn't
right,
need to
right.
be like stored at such low temperatures. Could be like just like
All right. So listen to this real quick. All right. Let me read to you the components of the Pfizer vaccine. mRNA, also known as messenger ribonucleic acid. mRNA is the only active ingredient in the vaccine.
so. I mean that's
The mRNA molecules contain the genetic material that. So, okay, fine. We don't need to keep reading. We can presume from the mRNA that the worst thing it can do is give you COVID-19. Is that fair?
yeah.
Okay, so we agree that the worst thing that a portion of the virus can do is give you the actual sickness that the virus gives you, right? That's the worst it could do. All right. So let's read what it says about it. It actually this addresses the rumors, but let me read you this rumor. There are rumors that mRNA vaccines will alter our DNA because the RNA molecule can convert information stored in DNA into proteins.
It's the mark of the beast. It's the mark of the beast. We're all going to become the children of Satan if we take it.
So they answer this, they're like, that's simply not true. It's critical to note that the mRNA vaccines never, blah, 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 blah. You're going to describe how mRNA works, but the point is, it didn't even make fucking sense. When people respond to shit like that, I'm like, see, that's why shit gets life. If you don't respond to shit like that and you just ridicule it, like, dude, what the fuck do you know about the vaccine? You know what I mean? So let's look at the contents of the vaccine. Lipids. The following lipids are, and just so you know, if, for people listening, lipids are a type of material. They're like 70% of biomass in the known biomass in the world. And they're lipids. They're basically just oils, fats, that at the molecular level carry information. They're like neurotransmitters like cannabinoids, THC, limonene, shit like that, lipids. Um, so let me read you what they are. The following lipids are in the new COVID vaccine. Their main role is to protect the mRNA and provide somewhat of a greasy exterior. Oils. It's an oil. Right? So 4-hydroxybutylazanidyl bishexanes. And when people say, oh, those chemicals that I can't pronounce, whatever, most of y'all motherfuckers can't pronounce Vasquez. You know what I mean? So, fucking cholesterol. Like earlier, I told my son, like, I don't know if you saw a conversation I was having. Drew Primo? Drew?
Yeah, I know Drew.
So it was on his page, and there was like, this lady debating both of us about something that we both had made like side comments that let her know that we were like educated on this topic. And at the same time that she let us know she really didn't know much about the topic, she still kept talking to us as if we didn't know anything about the topic, right? Um, and then she tried to make an argument, and then she brought up her. understanding of DNA, right? And then it was funny because like I was responding like, what the fuck? Like your understanding of DNA doesn't matter to me, you know? Like you don't understand DNA at the level that I do, so what the fuck do I care what you think about DNA? If you're talking about your opinion on DNA, that means you really don't know fuck shit about it because it's not politics, it's science.
No.
Like what do let's discuss my opinions on gravity, bitch. Like what the fuck? Um so I'm sitting here and I was about to type something out and my son was sitting behind me and then I he said like what are you gonna say to her? And then I turned around and I looked at him and I go, you know what? It was it's funny that this bitch is mad because I dismissed her concept of DNA and I'm like, but the problem is I don't give a fuck what somebody who can't spell out deoxyribonucleic acid thinks about DNA, right? And then when I said it, I was like, would she even know that it's deoxyribonucleic acid? Then I was like, hold up. Like I stopped myself, like, wait a minute, would she even know the word, let alone how to spell it out? So if you can't do those things, why are we having a conversation as if your concept of this thing that you can't spell out is supposed to inform me on something when I can actually spell the word? Even if I know nothing else other than that about it, if I know that much more than you, we're not equals intellectually, and we shouldn't be having this
No.
conversation as a debate. You know, and that's the big problem with this anti-vaxxer shit, dude. That's why I blame everything on bigotry and white supremacy. You know, when it comes down to it, that's all it is. Just protecting some.
I mean, look, I'm definitely like believe that there are a lot of things that are messed up about this country that are due to white supremacy, and I recognize its influences. I have definitely known some people of color who like they draw like conclusions based on real things that have happened, but in a
Mm-hmm.
very false way. It's like, well, you know, they did all those that the Tuskegee experiments, all that stuff. They did all that, so this has to be the same thing. And I'm like, no, like, this is. I mean, yes, there's a terrible thing that happened, but this is not the same. This is not like an equivalency you can make. No one's trying to give you
So
syphilis here.
So
Uh,
that's again the extremism of being pro something, right? So the extremism of being pro black is white supremacy. So when you say when you equate modern science to those times, you're not pointing the finger at the government. You're taking credit away from black scientists. You're taking credit away from black laymen who know more about vaccines than you do. You know what I mean? You're just doing the same exact thing that white supremacists do when they assert their knowledge by force. You're just doing it for a different purpose. But that mentality itself, if that mentality isn't there, it's not nurtured in any way, whether it's for, you know, male dominance or you know, because male dominance gives minority males perceived dominance in a world that's dominated by white males. You know, so these things, they give us that emotional support, you know what I mean? And it's like fuck reality. I need to hug and hold on to, I need to hold on to my guns and my bibles.
oh man,
Yeah, it's none of that one.
it's that
But if
kind of
you really,
stuff.
I mean, it just fit, you know, I know a lot of people say like, oh, you talk down to people, this, that, and the other. But the reason is because I don't consider myself smart. I'm dumb enough that if you're not as dumb as I say you are, you shouldn't felt like I'm talking down to you. And if you do feel like I'm talking down to you, then you really need to do some basic ass shit and look at the way you think, because thinking like a dummy is a choice that starts with not knowing what logic is, right? What
Yeah.
reason is. You know, people want to think that having thoughts is just this right that spills over into, like, the other day, you know, we're having a conversation and somebody just goes in there and just, I disagree, motherfuckers. And it's like, okay. And then they start picking and prodding like they want to fight. And it's like, dude, you're acting like your disagreement is valid of a response when you did nothing but say what you're you know, earlier today, well, all day we've been talking to this girl who and on Drew's page, she went in, she no, not on Drew's page. He made a public comment somewhere, and then like he gave his opinion on something and it was like this many words, and then she goes, "You sound ignorant."
It's not really a well reasoned response.
That was her response. And then when he starts responding, like at first, you know, like, okay, like, I don't think I'm ignorant, but where, like, you know, what gave you that impression, this, that, and the other. um she somehow jumped past that interaction and went into victimizing herself. So the conversation went from her saying he was ignorant. The justification for that never happened. We completely skipped over that. And then she reverted to being a victim because I just kept saying, yep, that's another white supremacist tactic, you know, and then I would explain it, this, that, and the other. The whole time he was trying to have a conversation with her, and then she would respond, and I'd be like, whoa, there goes another white supremacist tactic, you know what I mean? And then she just like reverted to like, you know, you guys this and you guys that, and it's like, whoa, wait a minute, you came in here kind of hard and you somehow became the victim when we've actually been kind of diplomatic about all this. You know what I'm saying? Like, we could have came out swinging and shit and we were diplomatic and she still felt ridiculed. And it's like, bitch, the problem here isn't the conversation, it's your bigotry. And your bigotry is like you're trying to hold on to that position of intellectual dominance that you never earned. And then when you find yourself up there, you're actually hanging on the flagpole. And then, bitch, I wasn't at the top of the flagpole. I'm the motherfucking wind. And now you're up on the flagpole like this. I'm the victim. And I'm like, hey, bitch, I got a simple solution. I got a real simple solution. Slide down the flag and no, fuck you. And they stay up the flagpole for hours and hours and hours and hours. And the entire time they're saying, you're victimizing me because you keep blowing at the flagpole and I'm up here swinging and I could fall down. And the entire time, what the wind is blowing as I'm yelling, slide down the pole. People stupid, yo.
Yeah. Oh, it's been a hard couple years for that. I used to believe that like the majority of people had critical thinking skills, but
You believe that?
I wanted to. I wanted to believe that. I felt like it would.
What
It
kind of
made
critical thinking skills were that, boy? When I
no.
started
I know.
learning about critical thinking, the fundamentals of critical thinking skills is the acknowledgement that 95% of people, 99% of the time, reject the notion of critical thinking.
I
It is an
know.
active, it is an active need of the human brain, the human mind, to reject logic, because logic is what makes us have the ability to be aware, right? That is the most basic level of our intelligence. That's what makes us fucking cells. Ones and zeros is our logic. That's it. That's the most basic shit, right? The problem with us having that much logic, like I told my son the other day, you know, I am the epitome or the combination of the awareness of millions of symbiotic cells, right? And then the problem with logic is that all these symbiotic cells become aware as one. And then now there's confusion that loses the original logic that caused these cells to be aware. And it's like it's the animal nature to not be logical because life, the universe is chaotic, right? So when we start thinking logically, it's in our nature, it's in ourselves to go, come on, do whatever the fuck you want. You know what I mean? Don't make sense of this. It's our nature, the same nature that came been symbiotic, and said, "Hey, I'm aware." That awareness said, "Whoa," but it does that constantly. You know,
Yeah.
it's an exercise. If you read like Thomas Paine and the deists and the rationalists and everything, the modern philosophers on logic and reason, they will tell you that what's the word the word, not the one I was using, the one you were using, starts with a
What?
C.
Critical
Critical thinking.
thinking?
Yeah, that critical thinking is is like martial arts. It's something that you constantly injure yourself with.
No.
Martial arts, you become stronger by injuring yourself, not by fighting people. You become stronger in martial arts by fighting yourself. And then when you get in a fight with somebody, you're indestructible because all the movements, they're predictable to you. All the punches, you're as hard as the wall. And even if you don't want to injure the person, you don't even have to, and you're not going to get stopped, right? And critical thinking is like that. If it's in our nature to become aware, and the nature of awareness is to reject awareness, right? Because what are we? What the fuck are we? When we become aware of ourselves and we're just cells, what the fuck are we when we start thinking of that? It's safer to believe some bullshit.
It's true. It's true. I mean, honestly, it makes human consciousness seem like less of a gigantic burden. You know, and I understand how it's. I mean, honestly, I'm like sitting here, fucking like hitting my head against the wall of like just thinking why. When I imagine it's just a lot nicer to just be like, this is why. When all these explanations I've heard over the years. I mean, hell, like I tried the religion thing for a while, tried a lot of stuff, but it never really answered the question. And I
Yeah.
can see why you're saying, like, even with the anti-vaxxers, it's just still going back to that desire to put off the horrible thought of you know the unknowingness of why we are so aware. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
I feel like it was a terrible, awful, awful move, a terrible evolutionary move to make ourselves aware of ourselves, aware of our own deaths. Like, what a
The funny thing
fucking
is that may
shit.
not that may not have been a choice, though.
I mean,
That may
it
not have
wasn't
been
a
a choice.
choice. It wasn't a choice. It just happened, I guess. They say
Because
that,
life
like,
started happening at the cellular level, like a
yeah,
single-celled organism is life. That's alive. That's a little single-celled organism. So we've been fucked since then.
I know. Well, yeah. So like, but then again, like that. I mean, I don't think like most animals are aware of these things. I think that maybe to a varying degree. But I feel like
Right, right. But it's
humanity.
that chaos. But
Yeah,
that's the thing. It is that chaos that keeps it changing, right? And it's the constant change that prevents this awareness. But when you look at animals that we're more closely related with that have awareness, you see slower change. You get me?
yeah,
When the changing stops being constant, and then when the closer and closer you get to humans, the slower the change. The changes are different now. We have different needs, and as we, I mean, the humans as well as, the organism that we became when we're, the with these symbiotic cells. The symbiotic cells now have different needs because the need to consume and consume energy and discard waste is different now. You know, so we work differently. Our brains, for example, for a long time, like the endocannabinoid system was, virtually freaking useless throughout the majority of our evolution, especially our modern evolution. Maybe not initially, but like the throughout the industrial revolution and everything, we've really, really, really moved away from the systematic health at the receptor level, from what we were consuming into something else, you know, and then luckily now we're moving back into giving like those type of systems the importance that they deserve, and but even then the evolution is slow as all fuck, you know. So
I suppose. I feel like we're kind of the middle children of evolution. I feel like if we don't kill ourselves and the whole planet around us, we'll achieve some real greatness,
why
something
you
really
say
special.
middle? You said middle? The
Yeah,
middle.
so like we're between like being dumb animals that are just running around and fucking and killing and eating, and like something beyond that, something that like really is deserving of this awareness, something that could learn something
Yeah.
deeper about this whole bitch. Then, but like we're kind of in between. We got one like pinky in like the thing ahead, and like a whole lot like behind. And
Yeah.
it's like a hell of a fucking thing. It's like, oh, it's a mean joke. Honestly, I feel like it is a mean fucking joke that has happened to us. One day there will be a consciousness that might grow out of us that like won't be so fucking miserable and terrible. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, I think it
that,
might be soon. I think within the next 20, 30 years, society is going to change in a way that, not like the generation that's coming up now. I'm not talking about like little softies like that. I mean, like the generations to come, we're like, for example, I don't know if I was telling you earlier, if I was telling my son, um, the relationship between Africa and the rest of the world. Let's take that. Let's go back to that for a minute. For example, internally, right? Internally, you have like 54. Is it 54 or 55? You
what
have
countries in
54
Africa?
African, yeah, you got 54 African nations vying for attention from the rest of the world individually,
Yeah,
internally, right?
54.
Yeah, so internally, on the one hand, you have that, right? 54 countries vying for attention from the rest of the world in terms of trade, aid, shit like that, right? On the one hand. On the other hand, and I did I tell you this before? When I said like as a continent, Africa is self-sustainable if it traded within itself.
Yeah, you were talking about that.
Okay, so what was I getting at? What was the what was the topic before I went into that? I forget. My
I have
bad.
no
I
idea.
got
I like right now. I'm just sort of like I like looked it up, and now like there's all these African countries I never heard of. Seychelles, Seychelles,
yeah,
Sey,
seashells.
Seychelles. I never heard of that one
Seashells.
before.
Yeah,
Nah,
yeah.
damn.
I think
But I've heard
that's a bunch of
Djibouti is my
islands that
favorite name.
that's a bunch of islands that belong to
No,
Spain, no, or something like that.
no, it's its own country.
Oh, okay.
Seychelles is its own country, but it's only 98,000 people. I bet
Okay,
you it's
so what
real
I was
chill.
getting at, what I was getting at, okay, so because of colonialism, right? And then like, because of colonialism happened,
Yeah,
right? Okay, we all know it happened, but the effects of colonialism are you know, multiple. I can't say twofold, threefold, whatever. I'm not going to play that game. But when we look at from let's say Francophonie, right? The French past colonies, right? So from the position, and I don't know what at the end of the day is on their minds, but I tend to not believe that leader after leader after leader after leader is equally nefarious towards Black people. You got different
yeah.
reasons, you got different purposes, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, you're limited by the actual system that is in place, whether as a nefarious leader or a good leader, right? So France knows it was a colonizer, and then now it has to leave Africa. You got different options. You leave these colonies by themselves to fend for themselves, or you give them a system, an economic system to trade within, right? And then at first, like, let's say that's for nefarious purposes because you want to assert some control, right? Years pass, and then now you have all these countries, and the Europeans left, and they've still left some type of remnants of control and dependence by having these regions throughout this otherwise self-sustainable continent solidified as an economic representation of this one country here and this one economic package in terms of export, import, etc. And even among those countries, you might have different deals with different countries, right? So you got countries that are this close to each other, not trading with each other or charging each other a fuckload of taxes to cross that border with certain products, right? And then the intricacies of that aside, what's the money base? What's the currency? Where's it going at the end of the day? Right?
Well, I
So,
mean, it depends on, I guess, their prior colonial masters. I know a lot of the francophone countries. France still controls a lot of the monetary policy of their former African colonies.
right,
Um,
right.
like England, kind of like they definitely like cast it off a lot harder than the French, uh, and the Belgians were the worst of all of them. Uh,
Yeah.
I just
But
wanted
the
to point
point
out.
is, but the point
Wait,
is also that, uh,
quick question. I put the flag of Seychelles in this. And I have to say,
uh,
I really like their flag. It's different. It's different than any other flag I've seen, and I like it. If you check out
did
the
you happen to
stream,
see the meaning when you looked it up?
I did not. Do you
Mm.
know the meaning of the Seychelles flag?
No, it just looks like a horizon or something. So
I know, dude. It's a
I don't know.
really cool flag. I really like it.
Yeah.
All right, but we carry on. I just wanted to draw attention to the. I thought the Seychelles flag was really cool, and it looks like from all the pictures I've seen, the Seychelles looks very chill. It's like a very chill, cool
Yeah.
place to be.
So what I'm trying to say is that the concept of Pan-Africanism is looked at as is traditionally looked at as like ultra revolutionary, right? And then I'm looking at it from the perspective that it's not revolutionary, it's common fucking sense, right? And it works for everybody. So internally, and maybe even, it's true internally there's groups of people there's in Africa who believe that there will be problems if they try to have their own currency or split from Europe, this, that, and the other. They're, you know, at the same time, there's people and there's companies in Europe that would benefit if the economy of Africa improved, right? So here's my thing. There's things that can be done that one side and that either side thinks it's going to benefit that one. It's going to benefit them. No, let's not do it, this, that, and the other. And then when you stop fighting about it and let it happen, it actually benefits everybody. So what I'm saying is that Africa as a continent, if it had extensive trade within itself, right? The African countries within themselves were trading, they every manufacturing inventions, universities, in the different and I'm not saying unified as one country. I'm saying as trade, all the because if all the trade is there, all the countries are going to work with each other and everything is going to work. Everybody who had been siphoning goods and resources off of Africa for what they saw as ridiculously high profits, if they're all going to benefit
Yeah.
to much greater degree for the same reason that paying for universal healthcare and universal education is going to get people off of welfare and lower crime rates, because now you have this huge fucking continent that is self-sufficient. You could probably eliminate world poverty just by letting Africa be.
No, I would agree. I mean, there's well, the thing that I feel like a lot of people don't understand is the sooner that the continent is able to develop, the sooner there will be a whole new. I mean, the same thing happened when China like developed. There was suddenly like a billion brand new consumers, and there could be another billion brand new consumers if we were to encourage economic development in Africa. And the more consumers there are in what is globally becoming a service based economy, the better for everybody because we'll have more people
Yeah.
to spend. Although, again, I would say at the end of the day, I would rather us go to a economic system that's not like determined on by like rates of consumption because I don't think that's sustainable in the long run. Uh,
What do you mean?
well, I mean, like if we're like if we're gonna like constantly be basing our economy off of the wants of people, uh, and the needs, so it's not sustainable. We're gonna like eventually outstrip our demand will outstrip what we can provide from the planet. Um, and I feel like more going towards like I mean, of course, like I want everyone to be able to live a good life and be happy and all that stuff, but like sort of think about more how we can like live in more equilibrium with the planet, with our ecosystem. I don't know. I'm getting some hippie shit right now. I think that could be better. And I mean, like, and I want people who work hard to be rewarded for it. I mean, I work hard to do what I do, and I hope to be rewarded for it. But like
I
at
don't
the
think
end,
that's hippie shit. The thing is that it won't work like in an economy like the United States. It'll work in Africa, for example. Right now, for example, if all these developing nations collectively decided to use hemp to produce textiles, and the factory that produces textiles is a self-contained renewable energy power plant producing what's the word uh eth
ethanol,
ethanol and sugar as well, like in Brazil.
yeah.
Like, let's say you have these self-contained factories where, you know because what would stop that in a normal country, in a normal situation? What would stop that is politics, right? In
When
a
I said it,
developing
I was
continent,
like,
what would get to the idea, to that point even starting, is the disposition for progress. So if you have a disposition for progress, then there has to be a progressive mindset, at the overall control of the continent, of the commerce and everything. You know what I mean? I'm not saying every country has to be innovative and do this and do that or whatever, but it has to be like, the market itself, the union has to be favorable towards that, right? So there can be innovation and everything. Dude, um I forget where I was going with that again.
It's all right. It's all right. We're both pretty there. I think maybe it's getting a little late. I think maybe we can wrap up tonight's episode. We can get back into this tomorrow. I appreciate you coming on
For sure, for sure,
and
bro.
co-hosting the first episode of Esoterica Live. Um, anyone who watched, you're pretty
Do you
awesome.
think elephants know they will die?
This is what we were talking about.
Oh Lord.
I know that's gonna make you
Bro, you
think,
know
right?
what? You say that? Oh my God. And you know what? I've seen some sad fucking animals that make that, like, it just hurts your heart when you see that
I
shit,
know,
bro.
I
You know what I
know,
mean? And
I
that right
know.
there, like, just makes you think all kinds of shit. Fucking dolphins, bruh. Yeah.
I do marine mammals in general make me sad as hell. Cause I'm like, damn, like how could we be so fucked up? How could we be so fucked up to these like marine mammals? They're so smart. We're just sitting here pumping them full of microplastics and chemicals and fucking overfishing. I don't know. Like people
Have
are
you ever
fucked up.
watched monkeys? Have you ever watched monkeys?
Like what kind of like bonobos are pretty chill, but like fucking
No,
chimpanzees, they're
bonobos are more
best.
intelligent. No, those ain't monkeys. Those come on, bro. Those are apes. You said bonobos and shit. No, those are apes. Monkeys have tails, for example.
Nah, I thought
If you
bonobos
watch
had.
monkeys, hmm?
No, carry on, carry on.
The reason I say monkeys is because monkeys, they're like little humans in terms of their bodies, right? More so than like some larger apes. The body of a little monkey is like a little baby, right? And they maneuver, and you can tell that they can learn to a certain degree, right? But when you watch monkeys, when they're like in a domesticated area, they do whatever the fuck they want. They do some ignorant ass shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Monkeys are ignorant as fuck because they have hands and can grab shit, for example. You know what I mean? Because they can run up and grab something and run away real quick, because they can throw shit, because they can yell, because you know what I mean? Because they can repeat something that made a human laugh. They're like, oh, this motherfucker laughed. Let me do that again. Motherfuckers is silly as fuck because they're a little smart, and they think they're smart as fuck, and they just go do all kinds of crazy shit. And as monkeys discover they're not smart, they're destroying shit. They're doing whatever the fuck they want. Humans are like fucking monkeys, bro. I know we're primates, but I mean, we're apes, but a lot
Yeah.
of us are like fucking monkeys, where that little level of intelligence allows us to have hands and damage, thoughts and opinions, and we go and fuck shit up and run away. And
Well, I
fucking
feel like we're kind of
monkeys.
like this in between place between like baboons and bonobos. Uh, we know empathy, but we can also be complete bastards. Uh, and territorial and violent and just awful. But yeah, we can also be like so empathetic and loving. It's just the human condition, man. It's kind of like fucked up. It's like a goddamn fucked up thing. Uh, what are you gonna
Mhm.
do? Here we are. I didn't ask to be born. I'm just trying to fucking make sense of this bullshit.
This motherfucker said I ain't asked to be born.
I don't think any of us did. No one asked to be born. If I could have had a choice in the matter, I might be like, I'm good. I'm
Hey,
straight on that.
that's probably what depression is, man. All these symbiotic cells going, I didn't ask to be born.
I don't know. It's a hassle, man. It's like I gotta like wake
Fucking
up every
bills.
day and pay bill. Yeah, what the fuck? You know, like I get given like the gift of consciousness, and now I use it to like fucking make dumbass like marketing videos and pay fucking bills. What the fuck? Some bullshit. It's some fucking bullshit, Mangani. But that's what the show is going to be about. It's going to be about exploring the bullshit. It's going to be about uncovering it and working through our collective trauma of having to be put through this shit because our parents thought that having us would give them meaning. And they were wrong. Fuck them. Eat a dick,
Oh
mom and
my
dad.
God, this motherfucker said because my parents thought they were gonna, it's
I
gonna
don't
give
know.
us meaning.
You might like your
I
parents,
was a
but
third. I'm the youngest child. I was the third, so you know, I'm like the middle child is like, okay, you fix the first fuck up, and then the last one is, God damn it, we gotta stop fucking up. You know what I mean? So that like that's when you tie the tubes. I'm that
uh,
child. You
oh man, yeah. Were you the surprise child? The
I'm the child they tied the tubes after.
That's how it goes sometimes. That's how it goes. Uh,
Yeah.
well, yeah, at least
Yeah,
oh,
so I
we'll
knew.
have we'll have you on again, Mangani. We'll have you on again. I think
And the
tomorrow.
bassinet.
I think that you'll
Seeing
be a
the
recurring thing. I'm sorry. Carry on.
I was saying me laying in the bassinet in the hospital looking at the doctor going into my mom and tying her tubes. I'm like, what the fuck going on here? Like, ain't nobody going back in there? Like, they shut down my nightclub?
Nah, it's over. After you, there was too. It was too much of a big deal. The fire marshal came in and was like, "Nah, we can't be having this anymore. It's over. This is done." But you
Yeah,
know, all good things must come to an end.
yeah.
But
But
okay,
my parents, you know, they're half great.
yeah, my
I'm kidding.
parents.
I'm
Sorry.
kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You didn't catch that, did you?
Yeah. I mean, I can't hate on my parents. They did plenty for me, but at the same time, I like disagree with them wholeheartedly on a bunch of things. And like, I don't know. I feel like being born. I don't know. It is what it is. I feel like it would have been a whole lot less trouble not to be. But what are you gonna do?
I
You
won't
know.
shit on my parents. I'll tell you this much. I was once asked by a psychiatrist what my childhood was like, and my immediate honest reaction was, I grew up in the 80s. You don't ask me what my childhood was like. You go ask every fucking body else what their childhood was like. However bad my childhood was, I grew up in the 80s. And the psychiatrist is like, what the fuck is that supposed to mean? I'm like, bitch, you ain't grow up in the 80s? What you got to complain about? Anything you can think of that you want to complain about growing up in the 80s, you would happily click them fucking heels and go the fuck back to the 80s right now. I don't give a fuck if you grew up in the 60s. I don't give a fuck if you grew up in the 70s, the 90s, the 2000s. I don't give a fuck when you grew up. Whatever fucking time period you grew up in, if you had the magical fucking opportunity to right now to click your heels and go back, you would go back to 1981, motherfucker. I think most people would, unless you were like in East Oakland or some shit, or
I
Miami,
guess.
like
I don't
South
know.
Central. Out.
Well, my parents talk about the 80s like it was the raddest decade of their lives. I've yet to have a decade that'll be like, this is my decade. I felt like they've all been fucking lame as shit. I mean, except for the
The
90s.
80s,
The 90s were
the,
cool.
exactly. The 80s and the 90s undid the decades. Like like what the fuck? Look at what musical genre has lasted more than a decade or two.
Uh, I mean, plenty. But like, what musical genres? We'll get. I'm
As
doing
in
mute.
like the dominant genre. Hip hop's been the dominant genre strong for 40 years.
I mean, it's been up there. I mean, still love hip hop. I mean, rock and roll was popular for long. I mean, we'll get to that. I have musical content coming up. I got artists. Hey, actually, fuck you. If you if you have like musical acts, I got ways to stream them. Um,
For sure, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
they got nice acts in Burkina. Burkina Faso got like the hip hop festival and everything like that. They got a musical scene, bro.
well, you'll have to have me out. I'm definitely. I'm actually not. I'm coming out to Burkina Faso to hang out with you while you're there.
Oh, that's what's up. That's what's
That's
up. I
what's
wish
up.
everybody would come the fuck out. And you know the good thing about going to Africa is it ain't just about just visiting one motherfucking country, right? It's depending on the time you go out there for. If you want to visit one country, yeah, you go there for a week or two. But if you want to do some shit, if if you want to do some shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, bro, just in West Africa. Like the other day, I told my son, like, I go, can you imagine somebody trying to do a show going to every beach in Africa? That would be like
Long.
for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You'd be like an old man halfway through the continent, like, yeah, sure.
I met a guy. I met a guy who he went to Munich, Germany, bought a motorcycle right off the line in the BMW factory there, and then rode that motorcycle from Munich to Cape Town. And he strongly recommended it. He said it was a real good time.
There's a
One of
guy
these
from
days.
Spain driving through Africa right now. I gotta find out if he drove that route, but I know in Africa he's been driving through Africa. But I would like I thought about that too. Like I was like, I wonder if this motherfucker drove all the way from Europe to Africa. You know what I mean? Because
I
that
know
would be
it's
just
so
another adventure, you
it
know?
it's tricky. You get across the Mediterranean, and it's tricky through North Africa. It gets a little less. I mean, I don't know. You gotta are you gonna go through the rock, or are you not gonna go through the rock? When you get
The
to like
Rock,
the Republic of Congo
you
or
mean?
the D
I mean,
Rock.
that's kind of there's a lot of space around that though.
Yeah, well, I mean, are you gonna go through it or not? Like that's the thing. You could go around it on the east side. Uh, and I guess you go through like Zambia and then to Zimbabwe, and then from Zimbabwe. I mean, I don't.
Is it
It
bad right now? Is DRC bad right now?
I wouldn't. I mean, there's a lot of parts I wouldn't fuck with. There's a lot of dudes running
Dude,
around like the jungle with guns that like they would kidnap the shit out of me. Uh,
well, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So like
They've kind of made comments about like somebody like me that is not what they look for.
yeah. Well,
And then they weren't
you
talking
better.
about my skin color. They were talking about the way I am. They're like, no, they're not looking for that kind of American. You know
I
what I
don't
mean?
know. Well, I guess they'd see you like, no one's gonna pay a ransom for this guy.
Nah, they're like, we'll probably get more from this guy by being nice to him.
I don't know. I'm not gonna. I mean, like, I'm sure.
I'll
I'm
be
sure
there
they're
hostage
fine.
like this. I'll be there hostage like this in handcuffs, looking at them like, dude, what are you doing over there? And they're like, our fucking TV is broken. I'll be like, let me fix that shit. You know, start fixing their stuff. I'm like, dude, your fucking guns are dirty, bro. You guys don't even clean this shit. Look at this. You got carbon buildup on the firing pin. You know what I mean? Like, come on,
I
bro.
feel like
Like,
I would tell them was like, hey, you know those rad like videos that ISIS was doing? I'll make them look like bitches. I'll fucking give you the raddest terrorism videos ever. Everyone's gonna be jealous of as fuck of you. They'll be like,
you don't
these guys
understand
right
African
here.
jihadis, dude. You don't understand African jihadis.
Their production values ain't shit.
African jihadis don't really be jihadis, really. They're just like nomads in the desert with nothing better to do than like express their madness by pretending they're part of ISIS.
Yeah.
My bad. Did I
Well,
say that on YouTube, like to the world?
it's all
My
right.
bad.
It's all right. I know, dude. But Boko Haram, they're kind of like, the like the sort of the store brand ISIS.
That's like militant pedophilia.
They're the fucking what the fuck is like the Walmart brand of stuff? The Mart.
Bro, I wouldn't associate them with ISIS or Al Qaeda. They're fucking militant pedophilia.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, look, there's a lot of sexual violence going on. I don't know if it's necessarily like. I mean, I'm just saying they're real pissed off. They got good reasons to be pissed
They're
off.
real pissed.
The
But who's
Christians,
they? Who's
all of the
they?
people that aren't the rich people living on the coast and they're Christian. All the
What are
upset
you
people
talking
in the
about?
desert.
All
Boko
those
Haram.
people can't join. All those people can't join Boko Haram.
Well, you
How
gotta
many
be
women do you
living.
think are? How many women you think are in Boko Haram?
Probably not many willingly. That's for sure.
That's what I mean. If women aren't included in this disaffected group, then it's not a disaffected group. It's fucking incel guys.
I mean, I guess I don't know, like Nigeria is a complicated place. There's a lot of wealth concentrated on the coast and the Christian areas, and there's a lot of people that feel like they're kind of being left out. But it all goes back
Dude,
to
are you
stupid
actually
arbitrary borders.
justifying Boko Haram?
I mean, I'm not
Like,
saying
what
they're
the
good
fuck?
people. I'm not saying it's a good reaction. I'm just saying that because a bunch of like douchebag like French people and Belgians drew a bunch of arbitrary lines, it kind of led to this.
No, it
Uh,
didn't. No, it didn't. What led to this is that you have these rural areas, right, where people don't have schools and they don't have education. And then this guy grows up and he's buff and he's a bully and he gets an AK-47 and then he goes and forms a little gang of assholes. And then, they get cell phones and stuff and they start watching the news and they're like, dude, let's come up with a fucking jihadi name and let's fucking say that we're part of Al Qaeda and fuck yeah. And they start fucking killing people and doing whatever the fuck they want and raping women and shit like that. And then somehow, some way, some white American has an excuse for the existence of Boko Haram that has something other to do than them just being a bunch of disaffected assholes.
I mean, I
I ain't
don't
never
know.
heard this angle. I ain't what you're okay to for there to be some kind of justification. You're implying that they have some type of gripe.
I mean, I don't know. When you look at
Wait,
where wealth is like centralized in Nigeria, I'm just saying. I'm not
so
saying it's
you
the
so
right
so it's so
reaction.
you're not saying this from the perspective of Boko Haram, like you've never heard them say why they exist.
I mean, they probably say that like all kinds of crazy, like, well, like Allah told us to, and fuck the infidels, and all the ridiculous, retarded shit that people
So
like
you
this
don't
like come.
know.
I
So
mean,
you
like,
don't know why they claim to.
I'm
You don't know anything
assuming.
about
I
them.
was from what I know, it's like from what I know about the socioeconomic conditions of Nigeria. I do know that the sort of the eastern parts, the arid desert parts of Nigeria are very
But how
poor
do you go?
compared.
But I don't understand. Okay, I understand what you're saying. What I don't understand is that how you're jumping from Boko Haram to the economic problems of Nigeria. You're not making that connection anywhere. You're just jumping.
Well, it's because
I,
Boko Haram. I mean, like, I mean, they're primarily like from eastern Nigeria, like Islamic militant group from the deserty, crappy, poor part of Nigeria that are pissed off because the oil rich coastal Christians like hold all the power and the money of the country, and I don't know, they're being haters, I guess. And maybe if there was more equitable distribution of the wealth of Nigeria, maybe they would feel like less angry. I don't know.
No, if there was more structure to the country, the leaders of Boko Haram would be in a mental institution or in jail for something much smaller. They're only able to form these groups at a large scale because they're out in the desert. These groups never number more than hundreds. And they do these atrocities and they get famous. They don't have no fucking rationalization for their existence. You're not even pointing to a rationalization for their existence. You're just saying there has to be a rationalization for the existence of this group that just does nothing but atrocities. No, there isn't a rationalization for their existence other than the fact that the people who created these organizations are fucking psychotic criminals in the right environment to be able to become authoritarian leaders. They don't have a lot of adults under their command. They have kids that are kidnapped and handed guns to. This isn't even real leadership. This is like sick men with more power than you've ever seen sick men with. It has nothing to do with the economy. This isn't a reaction to that. Boko Haram is not that type of group. That type of group is like the Black Panther Party. You know what I mean? That's who you attribute to existing for that type of socio-political problem, not fucking Boko Haram. That's freaking a crazy jump to conclusion.
Oh well, I do know that Eastern Nigeria like has a lot less wealth and a lot less of the share of the pie that like Nigeria gets than
Listen, listen,
the
listen, listen to
Western
your
part.
listen to your logic. Listen to your logic behind that. Nigeria is, by measures, the wealthiest nation in Africa. So by your logic, every country other than Nigeria should have a Boko Haram type organization because they are poorer than the wealthiest nation. And the wealthiest nation in the poorest section somehow produced Boko Haram. That
I
doesn't make
mean,
any sense.
I don't know, but you look at that like where it's bordering up against, and the whole like you look at like the Sal and like the whole area where you got your like Mujahideen types. You got like a bunch of people like Boko Haram, a bunch of like pissed off Muslims. Uh, and I understand that.
Pissed off Muslim tribes like the
Yeah, you got
Swadinga, or I forget what they're
the
called.
Tuaregs
That's
and
that's
like all those sorts.
Those are cultural issues that you blame on colonialism, bro.
But
That you blame on
but you say
Boko
that
Haram is
Boko
not
Haram
that type of
is a
organization.
different than like the Tuaregs and like
The
the militant
Tuareg are a
Iraqs of this.
tribe that has traditionally been Muslim in an area of tribes that are not Muslim. The same thing with the Fulani, and they're like fundamentalist Muslim in a country that's Muslim but not fundamentalist Muslim. You get me? So like there's problems with them in Burkina Faso and like Mali and stuff like that. But when you go to like Central Africa and whatnot, like a lot of the issues like in South Sudan, that was cultural, that was tribal. You know what I mean? Like it was, it's not always the socioeconomical issues like in control of the government themselves. It's tribal, religious, shit that comes about because people choose to live out in the desert. That too, you know, there's countries that, the central government is in the cities and they have no mechanism to go out to the fucking desert and even do anything with these people.
Well, the president of Chad had a plan.
Have we conversed about the
No,
president of Chad? Was
The
that me and you
president,
talking?
that was the president. Chad had a plan. He was gonna go out there and fix it all. He had the balls to do it.
Dude, I don't even know if it's okay for me to be laughing about this.
No,
Did you
it's
read the story
no.
after we
You're
spoke
talking.
about that?
I did. That guy's an idiot. That guy is so dumb. He literally had so many people to go do that shit for him. I mean, like, oh, you don't have to prove how big your dick is when you're already
Can you
president. You're
send
at the
the
top.
army? Can you like you ain't even gotta send an army, dude. You could have sent a SWAT team or some shit.
Yeah.
Local police, something. You know what I'm saying? Okay, they don't have I don't know what the structure in
Well,
chat
I'm sure.
is,
I'm
but
sure he
the
probably had.
last
He had
thing,
dudes with guns to go do it.
the last thing you expect, like who the fuck does that?
I will. I'll give it this. The King of Jordan knows how to fly fighter jets, and like, there's like he is.
This motherfucker. I thought you were. I'm like, I said, who the fuck does that? You said the king of Jordan has fighter jets. I'm like,
No, the King
what?
of Jordan knows how to fly fighter jets, and he has done it before. Like he has gone and done airstrikes himself.
Okay, but that's not the front lines, bro. You're not
No, I
getting
know.
shot at by other fighter jets, man.
No, I
And this
know.
motherfucker, like this motherfucker, it had just broken out. It was like the same day.
Yeah.
You just got elected. They start rioting, and you're like, fuck that. Fuck that. I'm going. I'm going. And you were the one that was saying like, didn't he have like advisors?
Whoa, but think about this, man. Imagine if it had worked out. Imagine if it had worked out. He would have looked like such a
Dude,
badass. He would have secured his reelection right there.
bro, really no. No, it wasn't even that type of insurrection,
Yo,
bro.
yo, if after
Ain't
nine
nobody was
eleven,
gonna look good.
if after 9/11 George Bush was like, we're going to Afghanistan right now. I am personally killing Osama bin Laden. That would have been hilarious and amazing.
Dude, no, no. This is like this motherfucker like flying into Iraq and running into fucking Baghdad with his fucking guns out.
Yeah. Could you imagine?
Shooting,
Like, yeah. Could you imagine?
shooting.
Like, fucking.
Brrr.
Well, I guess we think about Alexander the Great. He was there. He was on the front lines with his guys. That's why they loved him.
That's different. He
No,
earned his leadership through being a warrior.
that's right.
Wait,
So,
maybe the president in chat. I don't know, but even if you were just an officer, bro, officer doesn't mean like you've been on the front lines, bro.
true, true. He might not have been. He might not have been Napoleon. He might not have been
Yeah.
Alexander the Great.
Dude, you said Alexander the fucking great from
Well, but
that's some troll shit right there. That's some troll shit.
I mean, it worked out for him. It worked out for him until he got like one of those pooping yourself to death diseases.
Yo.
So, I gotta commend the president of Chad for having some fucking balls you don't usually see on leaders these days. I respect that. I mean,
Oh
it was a dumb
man.
move, but like, damn, the balls on that guy.
Oh man. I'm looking for the story right now. Um cause of death, gunshot wounds. Age 68.
It's a little long in the tooth for this. That's for sure.
68? You're telling me basically motherfucking Joe Biden went out there to the front lines.
Um,
So okay, us okay, okay. It's okay. Instead of giving a victory speech, this is after the election. Debbie went to visit the Chadian soldiers on the front lines fighting the Northern Rebel incursion by the Front for Change and Concord in Chad. He was said to have been mortally wounded in the village of Mele near the town of Noku. Let's look up the actual report. Let's see if, I want to see like if they got like who shot him, right? You know what I'm saying? Like in a battle. It says in a battle. See, nobody wants to give details of the death because one of the things that I saw when I looked up the amount of fighters that were there, it wasn't the amount of fighters that you would really give importance to. You know what I mean? So it was like, dude, what the fuck?
It's the other leaders. They don't want to look like a bunch of fucking like baby back bitches because none of them have the stones the now ex president Chad had. I would vote for a president that fucking went out there, gun in hand, was on the front lines again and again because I would respect the fucking balls on that guy.
Wow.
It's
I wouldn't.
ancient Athens, right? Like the
Mm.
richest people of Athens were like a part of the front lines because they had the most to lose if the war didn't go the way they went. And I feel like it's the opposite now. We just put all the poor people around the front lines, just fucking like, gristle for the mill. When like back in the day and age of the peak of civilization, like it was the people that were wealthy and had everything to lose that were right there willing to fucking like lay down their shit, and you don't see that anymore, and you just got nothing but peasants to throw into the fucking grinder, and you'll never see a
Cause
rich
now,
person on the front
cause
line.
it, cause you had to let non-whites into the military.
Well, I guess so, yeah. I guess so. That's
Once you
probably.
start treating everybody equally, you can't favor the Roman citizen.
Well, I
You're
mean,
not from Rome.
a big issue with like the Athenians and the Spartans was there weren't enough Athenians and Spartans to really fill out a big military, and the Romans were like, "We'll let anybody be Roman if they'll fight."
Mm,
And the same way with
says a
America. Same way with America. We'll
was
let
that?
anybody be America if they fight.
Hmm. No, not really. They fucking let people join the military and then they get deported.
Dude, that's fucked. That's like so
Yeah.
fucked. How could you do that to a person? They fucking risk their lives for you. They risk their lives
Yeah.
for us, and then they fuck them over. That's dirty. I could never be
Hmm.
okay with
It's
that.
happened several times. There's several cases about that.
Well, but they weren't dishonorably discharged or anything. Like fucking like did everything right, and they just like got like deported afterwards. Like, oh hey, thanks for the combat service. Now get the fuck out.
I heard of one guy that actually like I think he was an addict or some shit like that and got caught with like cocaine for personal use and then like got deported. I forgot how like the intricacies of it or whatever.
Even that, that's fucked
But
up. That's fucked up.
yeah, it wasn't like no crime that it's like that's unbecoming of your service to the country. It's
Dude, I've
like, ah, shit, we should take care of this dude.
I've
Because when
known
he joined the military, he wasn't an addict, and now he is.
I've known some people who their military service led them to some substance abuse. That's for sure.
Hmm.
But yeah, this
Okay, I
president
think
Chad.
this one, let me see what this one said. On Monday, the army had claimed a great victory in its battle against the rebels from neighboring Libya, saying it had killed 300 fighters with the loss of 5 soldiers in its own ranks during 8 days of combat. Debbie was a herder's son from the Zagawa ethnic group who took the classic path to power through the army and relished the military culture. His latest election victory, 80% of the vote, blah, blah, blah. The tanks were later withdrawn from, which is under heavy security. What the
So
fuck? It
so
doesn't
the
say,
pre-
this
so,
one doesn't say how he was killed either.
so the president of Chad clearly he like came up through the military, couldn't let that shit go, went out to go fight with his boys, and got fucking shot. like a
Yeah, but
fucking.
nobody wants to get into what actually happened because this is a 68-year-old dude. You know what I'm saying? Who probably got shot doing some dumbass shit.
It was. I mean, it's a stupid thing to do. It's a stupid fucking thing to do. This guy should have known fucking better. You're 68 years old. You know, your prime getting shot at years are like literally decades
68,
behind you.
dude.
Like, I feel like after you turn 40, your prime getting shot at years are pretty much over. Uh,
You're getting shot at yours.
yeah.
Why are you getting shot at anyway, man? You could be at the fucking front lines, get some damn protection around you, put a shield on, put a helmet. I don't know, man.
Fuck it. I would be in a helicopter watching that shit, you know? Like, fucking on the radio, like, putting some encouragement in there. Hell, I would be back at my presidential palace banging hoes and, like, drinking champagne. But then again, I would never seize power through going through the military because that's a Trump's way.
Mm.
I mean, in this day and age,
I'm trying to see if somebody has the actual
There's a video.
report.
There's a video of it. Video
Huh?
of Chadanian president getting killed.
Did you say Chadanian?
Chadanian, yeah. That would be the. Let's see.
This is OutSystems, the most complete full-stack application development platform for professional
parties the president had in the past, Chad, Benin, to visit President Muhammadu Buhari.
He's a retired general and he has in the past gone to the front. We don't know exactly how he got killed. What?
Dumb shit. He was doing dumb shit.
Adopting my dog has completely
General
changed my life.
Townsend said that a combination of Chadian and French forces confronted a rebel column, and as it appeared to be withdrawing, Mr. Debbie was killed. What the fuck?
Was very clever to
head of state. No.
So Al Jazeera is saying Chad President Idris Deby dies from combat wounds, which would indicate he Chad's president Idris Deby has died of injuries suffered on the front lines in the Sahel countries north, where he had gone to visit soldiers battling rebels. An army spokesman said on Tuesday that Deby, 68, has just breathed his last defending the sovereign nation on the battlefield over the weekend. I don't know. He could have just been in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was going visiting soldiers. Some turd got lucky and got him.
That's what it literally sounds like.
Yeah.
All this absence of information sounds like, yeah, there was shooting and maybe it wasn't, big time. And then somehow he got astray,
Someone got lucky. Someone got really lucky. I would have, if I was Idris Deby, I would have had my helicopter land at the base. I would have been like, "Hey, thanks for fighting," and gone back in the helicopter, and then fucked right off afterwards. Because
Oh shit! I'm about to read some news. Some today news. Burkina Faso.
Yeah, you're right there. They're right there on the Sal.
Two Spanish journalists and an Irish ranger killed in Burkina Faso ambush. The journalists were filming a documentary about anti-poaching activities in the Western African nation with a well-known ranger when their convoy was ambushed. Ooh. Two Spanish journalists making a documentary about anti-poaching efforts and ranger were kidnapped and killed in Burkina Faso, according to the Spanish government and a wildlife conservation organization, following recent warnings by the authorities about a possible resurgence of attacks in the West African nation.
Hey, what did I tell you? I told you it's
Huh?
dangerous there. I told you it's dangerous there. I told you there's
Yeah,
terrorists
let
that
me
fucking
finish.
kill
Listen.
foreigners.
They're in the desert, bro. They're in the desert. The killings on Monday came as violence is increasing in Burkina Faso and the security situation in the Sahel is deteriorating, especially in the border area of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. That's like so far from civilization in Burkina
No,
Faso,
but so
bro.
the people that
Far.
live close to there, they don't get fucking MRI machines. I'm like, sorry guys, you just like
There's
live in
no
two.
cities there. There's
Fair
no
enough.
cities anywhere near there.
So
Like
if
hundreds of miles, there's no cities there,
something
bro.
bad happens to you out there, you're just fucked.
Why would you be out there?
I don't know. Why would I mean? I don't know. Can you? I mean,
Anti-poaching, anti-poaching efforts.
well, maybe they're like tribal people living out there. It's part of their culture. I don't
Maybe
know.
what?
Maybe they're like I don't know. Why do people live
There's
anywhere? Oh,
Spanish and Irish
well, I'm
journalists.
talking about the the Burkina Faso. I don't know what is the plural of a citizen of Burkina Faso.
Burkinabe, Burkinabe,
Burkina Abe or wait, say
Burkinabe.
Burkina Bay.
Yeah,
Burkina Bay. Okay, why would a Burkina Bay be out there? I
if
mean,
they
they
live in a
live there.
village and they're part of a
What?
tribe.
But won't those people need like medical imaging services in an ideal situation where Burkina Faso can provide like uh,
Not if
an
they're in a tribe that's not, taking part in the national healthcare system. Like just because people are there doesn't mean you force them to take part in your civilization. That's what white people did.
I mean, okay.
I mean, you
That
disagree
sounds
with
like
that? You think
oh
that
that
because
sound
there's people there, they
that's
should be
that
forced to have healthcare?
I'm sorry. That just sounds like an excuse not to provide them health care.
It is an excuse not to provide them healthcare, a valid excuse not to provide them healthcare.
I mean, all right, if they don't want it, I suppose they don't have to have it. But I
Huh?
don't know. I don't know. I mean,
I mean,
I'm
if
sorry.
if they were there before the notion of modern healthcare existed,
I
then
don't know.
who is anybody to force modernity on them? They know where the modernity is.
I suppose that's true. I guess I would have to be on the ground and talk to some people to be able to make a good assessment of that.
I'm sure you'd find many people to socialize with out in the middle of nowhere in the desert where only jihadists go to fight each other.
Maybe they're jihadists because they want fucking MRIs. I don't know. They want a CAT scan. Their mom didn't get a CAT scan. She died of cancer
Why you
several
why you
many.
keep mentioning MRIs? What the fuck MRI got to do with jihadis in Mali, bro?
Because they don't have shit out there. I'll be pissed off if I was in the middle of the desert and I have shit.
I mean, I don't think anybody's telling them to be out there.
I don't know. I mean, I really
That's
don't
why
know.
that's why it's a problem. Like you realize, like, okay, like let's say there's violence out there, right? And then it gets found out, right? So now it's international news, and then they're like Burkina Faso to the government, you guys got to do something about this, and they're like, dude, but it was like 500 miles away where nobody lives. And they're like, but two Spaniards were killed. All right.
I mean, look. I mean, honestly, it's not their deal. Like the French have special forces out there. Americans have special forces out there. The West
What,
has.
like 10 guys?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, like that's probably like
They got like 70 people in Chad, something like that, a very small number in Chad.
yeah, probably better
I don't
trained
think they got
than
people in Burkina.
militants.
But even if let's say, yeah, the Americans got people out there and whatever, and they're fighting them. Okay, the fuck they doing out there?
I don't
If
know. I
the Americans
continue.
weren't out there fighting them, what would they be doing? Would they be fighting if the Americans weren't out there fighting them?
I have no idea.
Who
Well,
would they be fighting? Who would they be fighting?
I'm assuming that our troops that are out there are protecting the interests of our local allies,
Huh?
and trying to fight global jihadist terrorism or whatever.
Okay, it says the authorities in Burkina Faso said in a statement on Tuesday evening that the country had faced a resurgence of terrorist attacks since Sunday and that around 10 people had been killed in several attacks. 6 people were injured in the ambush on the convoy on Monday, and a Burkinabe soldier was still missing on Tuesday evening. The fate of the others in the convoy and the identities of those who carried out the killings remained unclear. The eastern parts of Burkina Faso, particularly around the city of Fadangorma, near the reserve where the journalists were abducted, have been a perilous area because of the armed groups operating there over the past few years. Let me see how big this city is. Fada and
Just,
Gorma.
it's just Sal things.
Huh?
Just stuff from the Sal. The Sal is just crazy like that. It's full of pissed
I
off
mean, it's the
Muslims.
desert. Like, yeah, I mean, it's the desert. What are they gonna do?
Oh, they got sand in their
You
vaginas. She's gonna be mad.
know?
It's gonna be mad. Probably pissed off at the French.
Who?
Which is,
Who? Oh yeah, these people were I guess I could see, people going out here for like looking at the animals and whatnot. Damn, that is it's not a big city, but it has streets, I guess. What is this? Are these streets? Is that a restaurant?
I'm sure.
Motherfucker
Oh my
got
god! In the comments of this video, someone asked what like about the president. Was he a good man? And like one of the comments says, only to his family, to his clan, and to the French. And I was like,
where are
oof.
you looking at these questions at?
On YouTube, on the Al Jazeera the story about Idris
Oh,
Deby
oh,
getting
oh, I
killed.
thought you meant on our live. I'm like, what the hell? Where's people commenting on our live? I don't see that shit.
Yeah, we'll do a Reddit one.
Hey, but we've been on this shit for 3 hours, bro.
I know.
Ain't
I'm
nobody
actually
been
gonna.
watching this shit, and we've been like, we just sitting here chit chatting any motherfucking way.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna get going,
Yeah.
man.
So
Um,
I know it's about like.
but yeah, I'm gonna read a little bit more about this attack because they ain't nobody told me nothing about this shit. Like, bro, what?
I mean,
No,
look,
I'm
when you
kidding.
think about it, it's like so like 10 people were killed in like Burkina Faso by some angry people with guns. Angry people with guns kill like fucking thousands of people in this country every year. You know, I could be at a
Every day, bro.
I
Like,
could be at a
I mean, I don't.
grocery store and some angry guy with a gun comes in, fucking kills me, and like fucking 15 other people. You know?
Yeah, it's a pretty big country too, and then
Yeah.
again, this is out in the rural parts of it.
Yeah. You
You
can
know what I
train
mean?
some
So this
people
is
to
like,
service the shit out there. Get some locals to do the biomedical work out there.
I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm planning, bro. I know what I'm planning. Shit. There's some shit going into work, and some shit gonna be put into play and whatnot. I hope. Anyway, you know what I
Well,
mean?
it sounds like they
But
like you. Hopefully they'll keep your ass safe. I'm
I
sure you will.
hope so. I ain't
If you
been
aren't
on.
going up to the northern part, I read about Burkina Faso after you told me that, and like apparently the only bad place is like that spot they're talking about, the northern spot where you got the Sal guys coming in, and they're just all mad and armed. You know,
Yeah, I don't even know what they're mad about, so I'm not gonna comment on that. They're probably just dehydrated. I don't know. They probably
I
just
don't
need
know.
resources like everybody else.
Yeah, just
But they're
pissed
definitely
off.
not Boko Haram that you didn't say, oh,
Whatever.
they're just pissed off Muslim.
I mean, They probably, I don't know, the Sal produces a
You
lot of
literally
angry
tried.
Muslims.
You literally tried to look for excuses for Boko Haram, which is like a really bad example of a terrorist organization that you want to justify the existence of, and then the
I'm not
Muslims
saying
in
they're
the
doing the right
Sahel
thing.
have
I'm
a
not saying they're doing the right thing.
but the Muslims in the Sahel have a completely rational reason to be where they are. First of all, if they're fighting somebody that's there. Again, we got to think about the fact that there's been Muslims in the Sahel for how long? Hundreds,
It's
if not
probably like a
how
thousand
many
years or
thousands
something
of
at this
years?
point.
At, at
Since
least a
there was
thousand years.
Islam, since like Masamune or some shit like that. It's been a minute.
Yep, before Mansa Musa, before the slave trade, the Sahel was Muslim. So
Yeah.
whoever's there now fighting the Muslims, you know,
Oh,
I mean, that's all I can really say about it.
religious extremists are going to be mad. Doesn't matter which
I mean, but
Abrahamic faith they
but
follow.
we're assuming that they're fighting due to religious extremism. The fact is that religious extremists could be completely pacifist.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know many like Quakers that are like armed and shooting people.
How many voodoo practitioners have you heard of killing people?
Oh, I thought they just make people zombies.
I mean, you've never seen them do it. The point is that they're religious extremists.
I don't know. I always thought like
By
voodoo.
by
I never thought voodoo was extremism. I always thought it was like a cool, like sort of, I don't know, hybrid thing going.
extremism is orthodox application of the religion itself.
Oh man, well in this country, in America, we're full of them, full of
Mhm.
extremists. They just, you
But
see,
there's no,
if shit got as bad as it was in the South, the Christians would be just as violent. 100%. They would be out there beheading people on video all the time. The only thing the religious extremists in America have going for them is they have something to lose. If they had
the
nothing to
only thing
lose, they'd be.
religious extremists in America have for them was that they've entrenched themselves into the government and the society, and now they don't have to do that. They can put on a badge and go out and do that every day
I know.
and get chastised for it once a week, once
That's.
a month. They'll do it every day and get yelled at for it once a
I
month.
guess you're right. Yeah, I suppose you're right. Yeah, that we got our Taliban, the Christian Taliban, in
We've had
place
our
for us.
KKK.
Ugh.
I mean, we ain't even got to call it our Taliban. Taliban is, a legit government.
I mean, I don't
We've
know. You could,
never had an extremist right wing legit government.
I mean, I don't know, some place in the South. That could be the next topic. Does America have its own Taliban? And can we not? And are we unable to see it?
Mm, I think the Taliban is too high a bar for American domestic terrorism.
So they're more like Boko Haram?
Exactly. Militant pedophilia. You're talking about militant racists, militant bigots, militant incel boys.
Well, I guess you're right. Is the South just full of white Boko Haram? The
Exactly. Now
question
that
continues.
yeah, and then the funny thing is if you put all those guys in the desert, they just come out of the closet forcefully.
Maybe that's what we should do. Round them all up, send them to Eastern Nigeria. And they can find their place. I don't think the
No.
Nigerians would much care for that.
How about we send them to a white country?
I don't know. I feel like they would die sooner in Eastern Nigeria. But we will
Yeah,
continue this conversation later. This is just about midnight.
for sure.
Thank you very much for joining me, Mangani. We will
For sure, man.
we will definitely have another show. I'm gonna think long and hard about what the next show will be. I don't know if it's gonna be about if you think elephants know they'll die or not. I mean, that is a good question. but anyone who is watching this, thank you so much for watching the first episode of Esoterica Live. We hope to bring you many more episodes of quality conversation.